All right. Hello, everybody. This is the D&Debrief podcast stream, and we're all really nervous, and this is our first show, so you'll have to bear with us. But my name is Sam Dillon, and I'm going to be your host and DM this evening. And I have several players with me. Nina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Nina, and I have never played D&D before, so I am brand new, and we're going to see how this goes.
Excellent. And David?
Yes, a longtime gamer and played RPGs back in high school. Had to take a long break from it for a lucrative career in the military, and then now I'm back at it.
Lucrative, huh?
Well, maybe enjoyed the career, not so much monetarily for the soul.
And Matt.
I'm Matt, and I have been playing 5th edition since launch, so got quite a bit of experience, and I'm excited to play.
Excellent. And I'm Sam, as I said before, and I have multiple years / decades, I guess, of experience. And the idea for this show is that we get a wide range of people with a wide range of experience, and we teach them as we go, and some of us have more experience than others, and that's okay. And really what's going to happen is we're going to see how this campaign goes and how it works, and we're going to sort of at the end of every session, we're going to have these sort of short 2 or 2.5 hour sessions, and then at the end of every session, we're going to discuss things about the system, the game, the story, character choices, anything pretty much that anybody wants to talk about. And so this evening's session is a character creation session, so often that's called a session 0. And I know that some of you have some character concepts already. Matt, of course, the longtime player.
You're playing a squirrel or something like that?
No, a tabaxi, a squirrel.
He's a cat. He would be chasing the squirrels.
Exactly.
All right.
But the first thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and roll stats. So my house rule is one that is very common, and that is that to roll your stats, you're going to roll 3d6. Sorry, I take that back. No, it's not. You're going to roll 4d6, but you're only going to count 3 of those. You count the 3 highest rolls. You're going to do that 6 times. And once you've done that 6 times, then you get to place those 6 numbers into the attribute spots wherever you would like them to go. So if you want your character to have high strength, you're going to put, of course, your highest number in your strength attribute. If you want them to have a high charisma, then you would put them in the charisma attribute, et cetera, et cetera. And so we are, for the audience, we're an on your honor kind of podcast. So we're not doing any kind of online dice roller. We're just going to roll dice, and whatever people say they get, then that's what they get. So.
Great. Okay.
So we can do this all at once, and then we'll talk through sort of how everything goes.
Okay. So this should be just a lot of quiet while there's a lot of dice rolling going on. Right?
Yeah.
Not a ton of quiet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the audience a little bit about the game setting. So in this setting, about 51 years ago, something happened, and no one really knows what it was, except what it caused was the oceans to rise up, or conversely, the land masses to sink. And when that happened, of course, now the world, which was for millennia filled with 3 main continents, is now just this scattering islands. And for a few weeks after this event occurred, this event is referred to as the sinking by the civilized peoples of the world. And a few weeks after this occurred, there was this constant hum in the air and a sort of bluish haze, and then that died off, and then people started sort of taking stock and trying to figure out what the heck happened. And it's been 50 years since then, and so theoretically, some of the PCs that we have could be old enough to have been alive during that event, just before that event, and also it's possible that some of the PCs could be have been born after that event. So we'll see how that goes. The world, as believed by the peoples in this particular setting, they are on what is referred to as the common plateau. That's basically your sort of material plane. And that common plateau is a flat square or disc. And it's sort of argued about by scholars whether it's actually a disc that's sort of hanging on the equator of a globe type structure or not. And the disc is rumored to have edges to it, and each of the edges of this setting has a particular barrier that would stop people from traveling through that particular area. And so that's your sort of generic introduction to the world. And so I hear that most of the dice rolling has stopped. So what did everybody get?
Well, like advice for putting them in the proper characteristics is probably needed. Well, maybe should we go over what characters we're playing in classes so we can then discuss?
Yes, if you all have ideas, let's actually do that. So I know that Matt has a character already sort of in mind. So Matt, do you want to tell everyone what you are thinking of?
Sure. I will be playing Ashaz Whitemane. He is a Tabaxi swashbuckler, or will be eventually. He's a rogue. So he is a white lion, and his mane has been fashioned into dreadlocks, and they're tied behind him. He spent his most of his life on the ship of the Maiden's Vagrant. And he is looking forward to finding some new adventures, and is going to leave the vagrant behind. That part of his life is over, and he'll start a new chapter.
All right.
And is that like it's a big animal, like you said, lion? So it's a very muscular, large build.
He's humanoid sized. Little, he's a little large. He's but still lithe. He's extremely agile, dexterous.
Okay. I decided I want to play a halfling bard. I think that would be fun. So I don't have a whole lot of background yet, but I don't know a whole lot about the character and class. So I'm just kind of learning it as I go.
Okay.
I think I want to play a human cleric. Just kind of stick with my guns a little bit. I know that's what we kind of talked about originally, just because that's kind of the character I've always played, and just like RPGs and different kinds of things like that. So I think I do want to go with a human cleric. Kind of looked at the domains and the gods that you provided for us, so I think I have a good idea about that. But backstory is still a little skimpy, so we'll kind of go with it.
Okay. And David, you said halfling bard. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
A bard, a cleric, and a rogue. Excellent.
Yes. This could be.
Sounds like the start of a bad joke.
So Nina, you said you don't have a ton of backstory in mind.
I've been kind of toying with it. I kind of think you sent us a little bit on the group that kind of maps out the islands, the new territory.
Yes.
And I kind of think that like one of her parents was one of those.
Okay.
So that they went missing, and when she was called to be a cleric, she's using that opportunity to go like searching for her missing parent or sibling or something like that.
Okay. So are you talking about the current mapping guild?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. And her parents are missing. Oh. Okay.
Or at least one of them.
Sure.
Maybe not both.
All right. And David, do you have a backstory in mind of any kind?
I think the motivation for the character is starting to come to light, which would be as a bard. I think because of the nature of the world, where there's these islands of small quantity, like the stories and known lore of those lands are probably contained within those small geographic regions. So going out into the unknown, finding new lore to write about and bring back, I think compels him.
Okay. And so Matt, your Tabaxi character, how old is it?
I would say I don't think he's too old. They live about as long as humans, so
Mhm.
I would say he's 20s, 30s.
Okay, so 30s. So you
Yeah.
were not alive
No, definitely not.
during the sinking.
Yeah,
Anina, do
no.
you think that your human was alive during the sinking?
No,
Okay.
I was thinking like 19.
Okay, so young. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither would mine be. Mine would be like almost 30, so it's like
Okay.
28.
28. Okay. Okay, since Nina mentioned her parents, does David know what happened to his parents?
No, I haven't thought a whole lot about that. I think maybe they're just the humble halflings, never wanting to venture far from their home, and so he did not want that life, and so he's rejected all of that and has left all of that behind, all his loved ones.
Okay. And Matt, how do you pronounce your character's name? Ashes?
Yeah, you could.
Oh.
It's Ashaz, and you could just call
Ashaz.
him Ash.
Okay. So Ash. Ash is a stowaway? Is that what you?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, he is a stowaway that the captain of the Maiden's Vagrant found.
Okay.
So he worked I mean, they were off at sea by the time they found him. So he worked kind of from a cub as a cabin boy kind of thing, and grew up as his life on the ship.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the stats here. So David, you're going to be a bard. Do you know what kind of school you're going to choose?
Not yet. Doesn't that kick in later? I think that's like a level 3.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I was just curious if you had an
Oh.
idea of what you were thinking of.
Either, let's see, what are the two basic ones? Let's see.
There's the College of Lore and the College of Valor are the two basic ones.
Oh yeah, and then there's the extra ones in Xanthars, right? The new differentiations.
Correct. That's correct.
I
and
think
then
lore.
you're thinking lore?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, of course, as you said, you can definitely make the decision later. But just if you had an idea, you could sort of use that as figuring out how to play your character and what kind of direction and motivations that end up sticking for that character. And Nina, you said that you already had maybe a domain in mind.
I do. I kind of want to do the Tempest domain.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah. And
That
do you know what what deity that you were thinking about?
it was one of the ones you sent me. Started with a G. Goros, maybe?
Goros is the
Goros.
Lord of the Rain. Yep.
Yes,
And
that one.
he does have Tempest in his domains. Okay. Excellent. That's a good choice.
It's gonna be fun. I'm a little excited to wreak havoc with some lightning.
Perfect for
Okay.
the ocean.
Right? Try not to electrocute everybody.
Yeah. So we have a rogue who is going to be high in dexterity. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
And we have a bard who's probably going to be high in charisma. And then we have a cleric who's going to be high in wisdom, probably. I can't remember the Tempest domain.
I'm pretty sure it's wisdom.
Wisdom, strength, probably in there.
Wisdom and strength, yeah, that's what it's usually wisdom for sure, but all right, so very good. All right, so so you can actually, do you need help distributing your attributes, or is everybody okay distributing their attributes?
I am a-okay.
I'm
I think
good.
I'm good.
Okay. And so you can apply your racial modifiers. So don't forget, the human and the halfling will use my racial modifiers, not necessarily the ones out of the book. The tabaxi is directly out of Volo.
Yep.
And also that means, let's see, that means that the halfling, so for the audience, in my world, halflings are innately magical, and so they start out with, as long as you have an intelligence score of 10, you will start out with the ability to read magic.
Oh, great. Okay, I have an 11. So, all right.
Okay. If you end up being proficient in Arcana, that is all of you, if you end up being proficient in Arcana, you automatically get the ability to read magic.
And that's just the writing that mages use to write down spells and things like that?
Right. So anytime there's a magical glyph or a ward or a spell or like a teleportation circle or any sort of item that has been imbued with power solely from the arcane aspect, not from the divine aspect, that is going to have some magical writing that basically looks like gibberish unless you can read magic. Read magic, it's almost like having an extra sensory knowledge where when you look at the words, they will form actual things you can understand rather than just random letters and numbers all mushed together. Okay, so let's see. So of course, everybody's starting out at level 1. That's a given. And did you did anyone? So I had said I think I mentioned to you that everyone should pick at least one personality trait that really is the thing that sort of is their major personality driver, not necessarily your motivation, but just, you know, if everybody you met had to describe you as one in one word or one phrase, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Is there are these specific from in the player's handbook, or are these just anything?
It can be something from the tables in the player's handbook, or it could be anything that you decide is for your character.
What page in the player's handbook, just for reference?
So those are going to be connected to the backgrounds.
Page 121.
Okay.
So if you end up picking a background, the first actual background description is on page 127. And they continue all the way through page 130, 141. And the only one that really has any changes in the setting is the sailor, which has those variants that I put in the setting document that I passed around to you. Now, as I said, you don't have to pick something off of there. Everyone has to have a flaw, but the flaw doesn't have to necessarily come from the table. So if you roll, if you decide on a background, the thing that background is really giving you is a couple of skill proficiencies and possibly some extra languages and some equipment, and that will be your starting equipment, along with a trinket that we that we determine. And then it provides you with these ideas for personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. Now, one of the things that we discussed, if you remember, was inspiration and how that works. And the idea in the book is that inspiration is meant to be awarded when someone plays their personality and ideals, bonds, and flaws really well. And then the DM is supposed to give them a point of inspiration, and then they can use it for various different things. And I think what I had mentioned to you was that my house rule, the way that works is when you guys see the other players doing something really great or really creative or really fun or really interesting, or that really plays and makes, sort of solidifies their character personality and their character traits and just their idea of, however they, if what they do allows you to see their character better, then you can award them inspiration.
Okay.
And that works the same way as if the DM had awarded it, but you guys get to award it. But the regular rule applies that you can only have one inspiration point at a time. You can always donate your inspiration point to someone else if they are in need at that time, even if they don't do something that's fantastic or cool or whatever. But if you don't have a point of inspiration to give them at that point, you can tell me that you think their creative idea or their item that they, whatever they did that made you think, wow, that was really cool, I will give them an inspiration point if you tell me that you think they deserve it.
Got it.
Okay.
And so having said that, that's part of the reason why I say, it's not absolutely necessary that you have all 4 of these items, a personality trait, an ideal, a bond, a flaw. But a lot of times for newer players or for players that haven't played this edition or for players with a new DM like this particular group, the fact of having the personality trait, the ideal, the bond, the flaw kind of gives you a key to play off of if you're not sure what to do or you're not sure what direction to go or how you want your character to be conceived. And the funniest thing that happens is a lot of times when I play with new players and they start rolling on these things, they go, well, that sounds kind of neat, but I feel like I want something slightly different. And then they want to change what it was just a little bit. And I'm totally okay with that. So if you roll on these tables and it sort of sparks your creativity to do something slightly different and you want to change it a little bit to make it more match what you're thinking of, that's totally okay with me. You just got to let me know.
Got it.
And so does anybody know what background they're going to be?
I'm going to be a sailor.
Okay. Did you pick a variant or are you going with the one right out of the book?
I think I'm just going to go with the one right out of the book.
You got it. What about Nina and Dave?
Is there something that's like a cartographer? Is that one for mapping purposes?
Is there a cartographer?
Maybe a sage?
There is so there's a variant sailor, which is a cartographer, which is in the setting guide, if I included it. Let's see if I can find it here. Nope, it's navigator. That's what the one I put in. So yeah, so the thing is that the navigator that's in the setting guide is basically could also work as a cartographer.
Okay.
Because you end up with cartographers tools, navigators tools, and proficiency with water vehicles. So if you actually wanted to be related to the cartographers or you wanted to have that as your sort of what your career goal is for your character, then that would be the actual setup that I would pick, the background that I would pick.
I see. Oh, so these determine which skill proficiencies you get as well, right?
Yep.
Yes. Yep. They give you a skill proficiency, a tool proficiency, and starting equipment, and usually some sort of other benefit, like the noble gets the position of privilege benefit, and the hermit gets the discovery benefit, and so the variant ones that I put here in the setting guide go with the sailor background that's on page 139. So basically, you just replace the skill, tool, and equipment. You just replace the skill proficiencies and tool proficiencies with what's listed on this variant background in the setting guide. And then it tells you that you can either choose to have the ship's passage feature, or you can choose the sense of direction feature.
I see.
So the equipment that's there is the same equipment. So the equipment on the sailor's background is the same equipment that you get, even if you chose the navigator. Oh no, I'm lying. I listed the equipment here too. Haha, never mind.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Sage. That actually is a pretty good fit.
Mhm.
I think.
Okay. Nina, what do you think?
Hmm. I'm kind of thinking maybe guild artisan. Maybe.
Okay.
Because mostly I was thinking like before the sinking, my players or my characters' parents were like merchants, and they were like part of this merchants guild, and then one of them went off to like map the territories and then disappeared.
Okay.
So I was kind of thinking about that, but I don't think I want my character like tied to one of those, because I was kind of feeling like she didn't want to be a part of that, and she like wanted to go exploring and wanted to go find her missing parent. I don't know. Because I'm looking at.
Go ahead.
The bond part is really where I'm getting stuck.
Yeah.
I like the ideals.
So there's a couple of ways to go about this. So what you could do is you could think about it like, well, for the first part of your life, if your parents belonged to one of these guilds, you probably grew up amongst the people that are in that guild, and so you would have learned a lot of those skills just from being around that.
Yeah.
And there might have been an expectation that you would also join the guild and whatnot. But if you change your mind, what you could do is you could sort of mesh these, since you're not thrilled about the bonds, of course. You can mesh the kind of idea of the background of the guild artisan with another background, and choose the bond from that instead. So for example, that's a good one. I guess the question is, if you wanted to be, if you didn't want to be part of the guild, what did you tell your parents you wanted to do? Like how did you tell them you don't want to be in the guild?
So I feel like if anything, she wanted to like go out and research like what happened. Like I feel like she wants to know what it was, what the sinking was, what's happening. I feel like she wanted to research what it was, and I feel like when she was called to be a cleric, she's using that as an excuse to like get out of the guild.
Okay.
She's not necessarily like tied to her deity, or at least not yet. but now she's like, oh, I have an excuse to leave and find my missing parent. Kind of thing.
So what you can do is you can choose the acolyte background,
Okay.
and if you so you said that you're getting hung up on the bonds of the guild artisan,
Mhm.
but the personality traits and ideals are okay with you.
Yes.
Okay, so instead of using the bond table, you can actually use the bond table from the acolyte, but
Ooh.
replace the sort of things when it talks about relics of my faith with you know, the cause of the sinking, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
If you know, I mean, some of these wouldn't fit that, but you could easily change something. So for example, the one that says number 3, I owe my life to the priest who took me in when my parents died. You could say, well, I owe my life to the priest who accepted me when I refused guild membership, or something like that, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that your parents actually died, but you know,
Okay.
once you choose not to join the guild, you know, you're kind of turning away from the family business in a way. On the other hand, if one of your parents was involved in some kind of cartography trip and the ship was lost, or they never came back, or what have
Mhm.
you, it might actually be that you sought out some deific power or something to try to help lead you to the answers to the questions that you seek. It's not
That's
so much
really
about
interesting.
you learning the divine origin of the world. It's more
Yeah.
about you learning, okay, you blame the sinking on what happened to your parent. And so that, you know, that's how that works. Somebody in chat said Outlander. So if you take a look at the Outlander, it's actually not a bad idea. The Outlander is kind of an explorer type person. So you could actually mesh together the guild artisan and the Outlander if you wanted to look at the bonds there.
Okay.
Hey, Sam.
Yes.
Real quick, I completely forgot about the variant for the sailor for the navigator, and I
Yes.
remember in kind of when we were chit-chatting back and forth about Ash, that he would be he was at the helm of the Maiden's Vagrant for a while. So do you think I could switch that real quick to the navigator?
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay,
Be a
perfect.
good thing. I think knowing where to go is probably a good place to
Yeah.
Mwahaha, knowing where to go. And so Dave, your halfling bard is a stage.
Yeah, I'm looking. Do you think it's better initially to go with just what is it, the performer? That way it plays to my strengths of my stats, because the sage picks skills that are like my lowest stats for proficiencies.
So here's my personal philosophy. I think that you should build a character that you're going to enjoy playing. So if the background doesn't actually make you have the things that you want, you should pick a different one.
Do we get any more skills proficiencies other than the ones that are listed in the background?
You sometimes, based on class, you're going to get some skill proficiency. So for example, clerics, only because the book is open to this page, clerics get 2 skill proficiencies from history, insight, medicine, persuasion, and religion. And so you as a bard, you're going to get to choose from any 3 skills, right? So
Okay,
yours is pretty much wide open.
Oh, okay, that's fine then, because it'll
Yeah.
allow me to still get. Because I was thinking a bard without performance would probably be a bad way to start.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have a less constrained idea of what a bard is. Sometimes bards don't necessarily perform. Maybe they're writers. Maybe they're writing everything down. They don't necessarily go do a spoken word kind of thing, right? And in that case, Sage does more match maybe how that, you know what I'm saying? So, but
Yeah.
as I said, my personal philosophy is you should play the game that you want to play. So you should be playing the character that most matches how you think you're conceiving of what's going to happen for you. I will also just tell you that if we play this game for a couple of sessions and you realize, oh, this character really isn't doing the things that I thought they were going to be able to do, or that I thought that I was giving them the ability to do, or that they were going to be good at, we can totally reconfigure things. I mean, within limits, right? You can't make a whole new character, but you can fiddle with things. And if you decide that the skills that you have don't actually match what you thought you were making, we can talk about changing those things around. I'm totally flexible about that sort of thing.
Great. Yeah, I'll stick with Sage.
Okay. All right. My pencils decided to give me some problems. So Nina, what do you think?
I am honestly leaning more just towards Acolyte.
Okay.
The only thing I really like about the Guild Artisan is the ideal of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I like that part. But otherwise, really, my personality trait, bond, and flaw all come from Acolyte.
Okay. That sounds good to me. I mean, I'm not, like I said.
Is that all good?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Okay,
So,
cool.
But I do need to write those down. So Ash is a sailor navigator.
Yep.
Swashbuckling rogue, or soon to be swashbuckling rogue.
Swashbuckling.
Swashy.
I'm gonna get hung up on that every single time. I hope you guys know that.
Good.
That's all right. And so what ideal did Ash pick?
Ash's ideal leans toward freedom. He believes that life is totally individual. You be your own rainbow and live it to the fullest, and live loose and wild and crazy and fun.
Awesome. And what's his bond?
What he holds dear is loyalty to his past crew, friends, family, and to new friends. He's those who are close to him. If you're a friend, you're family. So he really holds on to that.
Okay. And his flaw?
Sometimes his pride can blind him, and he will never back down if his courage is challenged.
Okay. You all hear that, right? That means you might have to pull him by the tail out of there.
Oh,
You're like
Lord.
Marty McFly. If someone calls you chicken, it's over.
Oh yeah, it's over.
Okay. And so did you jot down a personality factoid or phrase?
Yeah. So, I in the first person, I always try to make new friends over ale or rum. I'm really leaning into the whole sailor thing, so
Okay.
rum is definitely on the menu.
Okay. Dave. Ideals, bonds, flaws, personality.
I'm still looking for a bond, but so ideal is change. Life is like the seasons in constant change, and we must change with it.
Okay.
And then for flaws, curious. I don't like to leave a stone unturned, and I want to know the answers to mysteries.
Okay. You all hear that, right?
Oh yes.
Means you're gonna have to pull him away from. I'm sensing a theme.
You guys are gonna kill me. I swear.
Nina. Ideals, bonds, flaws, personality.
Okay. So my ideal is freedom. Everyone should be free to pursue his or her own livelihood.
I like it. I dig it.
Yeah.
Me too.
And bond.
My bond, I would die to recover information on the sinking that took my mother away from me.
Okay. You guys hear that? She would die.
I know. I was
The
mentally keeping
information.
that in my head.
Gonna be fun.
And flaw?
I judge others harshly and myself even more severely.
Ooh.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Now your background gives you some equipment, and your class your class gives you some equipment as well. So I will let you guys deal with those things, and we can talk about those in a minute. And I need to make sure I'm not forgetting anything.
When you have a second, I'd like to discuss Ash's equipment.
Yes. So
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, so just to hit the things that are the same for everyone. Everyone is first level. Everyone has a +2 proficiency bonus and no inspiration right now.
Oh man.
Sorry. You all have 1 hit die of whatever type that matches your class. So the hit dice are based on class. So that will be in the PHB in your class listing. Also, everyone is proficient in 2 saving throws. That is also listed in your class. Everybody's hit points at first level are the maximum that you can have. So it's going to be the full, as if you had rolled a hit die to the maximum, plus your constitution modifier.
Okay. What's the constitution modifier for 15?
15 is going to be a +2.
Yep.
I'm double checking my own self. The modifiers, just for reference, are on page 13.
Okay.
I have
And
a
so
whopping HP of 9.
that's pretty good for starting HP, actually.
Yeah, it's a D8, and my Constitution is 13.
Nice.
In fact, what I'm going to do after, as we're going, is I am going to actually write down everybody's hit points, AC, and passive perception. So you want to talk about Ash's equipment?
Yes, as a rogue, I get a short sword,
Mhm.
and then I have the option to choose another short sword.
Yes.
Instead of a short sword, can I flavor it more toward a scimitar and have it actually be a cutlass? 2 cutlasses.
Sure. I
Cool.
don't have a problem with that.
So it's still the 1d6, it's slashing.
Yeah, I mean, it's mechanically the same as a short sword, but
There you go.
you're a
Yep.
big pirate, so. Also, I'm going to ask everybody's alignment.
Okay. I'm chaotic neutral.
Oh, there's always one in every party.
Well, maybe I'm not reading that. Where's the defining of that? That's
So those are actually in they're at the beginning of the background section. So let me see if I can pinpoint a page number for you. Page 122. Unlike in past editions, or unlike in some of the older editions, alignment is not something that is usually extremely important. For example, in older editions, for example, second edition, you would have a paladin, and your paladin had to be a certain alignment. And if your behavior strayed away from upholding that alignment, then that might change your character. You might lose powers until you please your deity again, and such and such. But in 5th edition, it's a little more loosey-goosey. There's not really a ton that is connected directly to alignments, although I still tend to think in terms of good versus evil, kind of. There are some sort of overarching themes in terms of good versus evil that might come into play. That doesn't mean that it's going to affect your alignment or that your alignment's going to affect that, but you'll probably see those different themes arise. So that's why I say in my setting guide, no evil alignments, but other than that, I'm fine with whatever alignment that you decide to choose. We'll put it this way. If you decide to be lawful good, but you keep acting like a chaotic neutral person, I'm going to start to say, what's going on? Because you might conceive of yourself as lawful good, but actually that would mean that the other, NPCs and whatnot in the world actually sort of conceive of you as a chaotic neutral type of person. And that might change how certain things work. So, but it's not, it wouldn't be a punishment kind of thing, like where without warning, I suddenly say, oh, because you've been acting so weird, I'm suddenly taking away all your powers. Like that's not, I don't do that. So.
Ash's alignment is going to be chaotic good.
Okay.
Oh. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Let me read.
And then, I'm going to ask for 1, 2, 3, 4 things. I'm going to ask for hit points. Oh no, 5 things. Sorry. Taking notes as I go. Hit points, armor class, passive perception, initiative, and alignment. Those are the things I'm going to be dealing with. So Nina, you are the newest player. So where are you at right now? What are you stuck on?
Okay, so I have my hit points neutral good, by the way.
Okay. And you've got your hit points. You said there were 9.
Yes.
Okay. And then your armor class is going to come from whatever armor you're wearing.
I am proficient in light and medium, so I chose the medium scale mail.
Okay. And so let's see, that gives you what kind of AC?
13? 13.
Okay. Nope. 14 plus your dexterity modifier.
Oh.
And you have disadvantage on stealth checks with that armor on.
Okay. Do you have my dexterity modifier?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
Because I only have 9 dexterity. So
okay.
that's
going to be a
-1.
-1. Yeah. Oh, so that's why you're saying 13. Aha, then yes, you are correct, 13.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm sticking with chaotic neutral.
Okay. Do you know what your hit
Spice
points
things
are?
Let's see. Hit dice is D8, so it's 8 plus con bonus, right, which is 2, so 10.
Yes, okay. Nina, did you get a, what's your passive perception? That's going to be 10 plus your wisdom perception score.
12,
So
I think.
So your perception is going to be your wisdom modifier plus Rudy's giving me a message. Yeah, you're going to be your passive perception is going to be your wisdom modifier.
Hmm.
If you are proficient in perception, it's going to be a +2 added to that. And then passive is a 10. So let's say if you have a wisdom modifier of +2 and you're proficient in perception, your passive perception would be 14 because it would be 10 + 2 + 2.
Okay.
If you're not proficient, you don't count one of those +2s.
Okay.
If you don't have a
So
modifier, you don't count that.
it's 11.
So your passive is 11. Okay. I have to adjust my setup so that I'm not out of the view. Let me just walk away, leave an empty chair.
So for all of these skills, we put the number in there based on what our proficiency bonus or stat bonus is, and then if it's a skill that we have proficiency in, then we actually get the proficiency bonus. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I don't know if you're looking at a character sheet or if you're looking at like D&D Beyond or something, but most of the character sheets that are created, they have some way to check, like put a check mark next to some of the skills to show that you're proficient in them.
Okay.
The standard sort of D&D, if you look in the back of the player's handbook, the D&D character sheet has a little circle and then a line next to each skill. The circle is so that if you're proficient in that, you color that in. You know that you're proficient in it, so you're always going to add your proficiency bonus. The line is for you to actually add, put the number that you would add to your roll. So for example, if you're proficient in acrobatics, you would color the dot next to that. And then for your acrobatics check, you would have your dexterity modifier plus your proficiency bonus, and that's what you would put in the number on the line next to that circle.
Okay.
And then so you can actually I like the way they do their standard sheet because it tells you which skill is related to which attribute. So you can actually go down the line and say, oh, all the dex ones, I'm going to have a modifier of +2, and you go down, and then if you have proficiency on any of those, you just add an extra +2. Anything passive means it's a 10 plus whatever your roll would be. So the passive items that are sometimes used is really just as if you roll the d20 and you roll a 10 every time. So if you're not even paying attention to it, you're going to get an average of a 10 plus whatever your ability would be. So that's why passive perception is 10 plus whatever your perception skill is. Trying to think if there's anything. Now as you guys are filling those in, for initiative, your initiative is really just your dexterity modifier, unless you also have a feat or some kind of ability that gives you a bonus to that, which no one has probably at this moment. So in the box that says initiative, you're just going to put whatever your dexterity modifier is. Your speed is going to be based on the race. So you'll find a speed entry in any of the racial entries that you look at. Somebody was knocking on my door. Sorry. And let's see. So what don't I have? So the last thing that I need to know is usually the hardest thing for people to come up with if they haven't already thought about it, and that is the name. So Matt already has a name for his character. So Nina, do you have a name for your character yet?
I've literally been thinking about this all day, and I still have not really come up with something. Two of the names that I kind of like that I'm okay with. The first one's Emerin, and the second one is Treabel.
Okay.
But
I
I'm
vote
not
the
sure.
first one,
The first one?
Emerin.
Yeah,
That's
that sounds good.
that's my Fire Emblem coming out.
All right.
Oh man, I can't wait.
You want to spell it for me?
EMMERYN.
Okay, perfect.
The new
And
one
Dave.
can't come out soon enough.
I'm pumped. I'm really excited.
Dave, do you have a name for your character?
Yes. Axley Tillingquest.
All right, you want to spell it
Perfect.
for me?
AXLEY TILLINGQUEST.
All right. Killing Quest. All right, nice. Okay. And then I'm trying to make notes that make sense to myself. So Ash, what's your AC?
My AC is 15.
Axley, what is your AC?
And that's based off what?
Your AC is based off whatever armor you're wearing, or if
Oh.
you have an ability that lets you have no armor and then you use your dex modifier.
Okay, so I probably have, I think, light armor, right? So like leather armor, what's that?
So leather armor is going to be
11 plus dex.
Yep. And you do not have disadvantage on stealth checks with that.
So that makes it 14.
Okay. And Imran, what did you say yours was?
Mine.
13, I think.
13.
Okay. And hit points, Ash.
Ash has 11 hit points.
Good, you can fend for yourself.
And Imran has
9.
and Axley has 10. Is that correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what is everybody's passive perception?
Passive perception.
Ash's passive perception is 17.
Okay. Passive perception is going to be 10 plus your dexterity modifier.
10 plus 10. Okay.
And then if you have any kind of other special ability that might modify that.
Passive perception is dex?
It's going to be 10 plus your dexterity modifier.
Wouldn't
And if
it's going to be your wisdom.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm thinking of initiative. Yes, it's going to be your
I was
wisdom
like, I have a -1 dexterity.
No, it's your wisdom modifier. Plus, if you're proficient in perception, then it's the proficiency bonus.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was already ahead. I was thinking of initiative, which is what I'm going to ask you for next.
Oh, I see. Perception. Okay, so my
Yeah.
perception is, well, my wisdom's 10, so that means
Okay.
it's 10, right?
So your wisdom is 10, so that has a +0 bonus on it.
So 10.
And so passive perception is going to be 10 plus 0. And if you are proficient in perception, you'll add your proficiency bonus to that. But you're
Okay.
probably not proficient in perception. Is that correct?
I'm not.
Okay, so your passive perception is a 10. And Marin,
Passive perception.
what's that?
I don't see passive perception anywhere in the character sheet. Oh, there. Oh, passive wisdom, they call it. Okay.
Yeah, so the way that they write skill checks in this edition is they write the attribute that's attached to that skill check, and then they write the actual skill that's being used. And the reason they do that is because Really what this means is usually perception is related to your wisdom attribute, but it's actually up to the DM to choose which attribute is going to modify that check. So if I decide that, I mean, this perception is usually almost always wisdom, but let's say with acrobatics, I might decide that your acrobatics, instead of using your dexterity modifier, based on what you're doing, it might use your strength modifier. And that would be a strength acrobatics check versus, right? So that's why they do that. So that's sort of their traditional, or their sort of the way that they try to write things in the books that they publish. It always attaches an attribute to this skill that they want you to be checking.
Okay.
Imran, what was your passive perception?
12.
Okay. And then everybody's initiative. Initiative is based on dexterity, which is
Yeah, that's
what
a
I kept
negative
saying.
1.
And Axley?
Initiative based on dexterity. So it's just equal to?
It's your dexterity modifier.
Oh, the modifier. Okay, +3.
Okay. And Ash?
+4.
+4. So you two are going to rush in.
I'm going to hang back.
And not so fast. Maybe I'm rushing away.
That's true, maybe.
I was going to say, with your guys' personality traits, it sounds like you're going to be rushing into a bunch of stuff.
Maybe I'll surprise you.
Okay, so, all right, what else? Does everybody have equipment? I know I didn't give you a lot of time to do that.
Yep.
No, I need to. I got some of the basic stuff that's listed on the, the character background, but I need to go through and flesh it out.
Okay, so let's talk about how you determine what your attack bonus is. So your attack bonus, if you are making a melee attack, so anything with your hands basically, it's going to be a d20 roll, just like a skill check, but it is going to be a d20 plus, if you're making a melee attack, your strength modifier, so +1, +2, +3, or -1, -2, plus your proficiency bonus if you are proficient in the weapon that you're using, and most people are. The beginning packages they put attached to the classes always give you a weapon you're proficient with. And then the damage that is going to do is based on the type of weapon, and then you will add your strength modifier to the damage as well. Now, if you're going to make a ranged attack, so something like with a bow and arrow, or you're going to throw something, you're going to use your dexterity modifier instead of your strength modifier. And then if you're proficient, you'll also use your proficiency bonus, and then your damage is going to be just the weapon damage.
Okay.
So for any weapon that you end up getting in your set of equipment, then you need to make sure that you can easily calculate what your roll is to hit with that. A lot of times, things that happen are you might end up without your weapons, or you might use an improvised weapon. And in general, improvised weapons do 1d4 damage, and they're almost always thrown, and they'll do 1d4 to 1d6 damage. Or if you're hitting somebody over the head with it, it's basically treated like a club. So it's basically a 1d4 damage. I, however, am flexible with that. I feel like if you pick up something that, a board with nails in it is probably going to do more than a fist would. So at that time, when you pick up an improvised weapon, we'll discuss what the effects of that particular weapon are. Either way, the 2-hit is still d20 plus strength modifier. You're not necessarily proficient in improvised weapons, but it depends on what it is. I'm flexible with that as well. It's kind of up to us to tell a story, and I feel like, look, if you live your life on a ship, you're probably proficient with a belaying pin as a club. So there's no reason to not add your, your proficiency bonus to that. That would feel too constraining to me. On the other hand, unless you live your life in the tavern and you're constantly getting into bar brawls and using a stool or chair as a weapon, you might not be proficient with using a chair. So that would be something that would have to be talked about at the time. Let's see. So we have attributes, we have modifiers, we have passive scores, we have, so what we didn't talk about is saving throws. So each class grants you proficiency in 2 of your saving throws, usually in 2 that kind of relate to what your skill sets are, like the character conception. And that's also why on those sheets they have a circle next to those, so you can color in the ones that have proficiency. Otherwise, saving throws work a lot like skill checks, where you're just rolling a d20, you're adding your modifier for that particular attribute, and then you are either proficient in it or you're not. And I think that brings us to the end of the first page there.
Is a bow and arrow, is that considered simple weapons? Is that a simple weapon proficiency?
Yeah,
Depends on the bow.
It depends. So if you look on page 149, there's actually a chart that separates the weapons into groups. So there's simple melee, and then there's simple ranged, and then there's martial melee and martial ranged.
Okay.
It turns out that light crossbows and short bows are simple ranged weapons. Who else has questions? Does everybody understand their basic class abilities?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah,
I guess
think
my
so.
one question.
Hmm?
When I start out, I get a holy symbol. What is that?
So holy symbol normally is, so there's a couple ways to think about it. A holy symbol is something that you're going to use to sort of channel your divine energy through, or that you have on you. So it could be like a necklace. It could
Okay.
be a talisman that you keep in your pocket or your bag or a pouch that you have to pull out.
Yeah.
It could be something that you attach to a shield or a weapon or a helmet. You could actually embroider it into your clothing.
Okay.
And basically what it is in terms of Goras, it's going to be his holy symbol, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be on this table. It tells you what the symbol is, and it says that Goras is a sickle and a cloud. And so on your clothing or on your items, or it might be a standalone like amulet that you wear, there's going to be that symbol somewhere. And the followers of Goras will know that you are also a follower of Goras, because
Okay.
you're holding that holy symbol. And not only that, but you are probably pretty devout, because most people, even if they believe that God exists, or they think that God has some sort of power in the world, they don't necessarily walk around with the symbol on themselves. Whereas since you do, people will get the idea, okay, you're either a priest or some kind of an acolyte, or you
Right.
work in the church or the temple, or possibly you're like a paladin.
Okay.
Depending on what,
Yeah.
you're relatively heavily armored because you have scale mail on, and not everybody has access to scale mail. So people probably think you're you're maybe some kind of paladin or something,
Okay.
because you're wearing, some pretty good armor. So, what else? Who has questions?
I think it's coming together. So yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna go with the short bow.
Okay.
Weapon.
So, while you're finishing that up, I have some questions for you. My first question is, how did the three of you meet?
Are we going to start where we are booked on a ship to leave the main island, or are we're just on the main island that we grew up on and we're not leaving it? We're just in this common place.
You're not leaving yet.
Okay.
You're not leaving yet. Well, you might leave by the end of tonight, but you're not leaving. You're not on a boat right now.
Okay. Are we going to start in a large city? Are the biggest city on the island?
That's a good question. So you are starting on the island of Thude in the town called Trastenfinn. Trastenfinn is the port town there in Trast Bay, which is the largest port there on that main island. And it's got a relatively large population. It's probably 4,000 souls. So not extremely huge, but large for this area of the world,
Okay.
and large for this size island. It has a large refugee population, and most of the people that are there make their living from the sea somehow. So they either fish or have trading vessels, or they are merchants or contractors who contract for goods to be shipped. They warehouse them, and then they have land merchants take them to the other small towns and villages on the island. And of course, there are 2 or 3 different inns, and there are, plenty of houses. There's lots of little fishermen's huts and whatnot. It's relatively large, but it's not super huge. So it's not a large city like a Waterdeep would be. Waterdeep would have several different wards and several different power structures, several different guard units, and lots of different people that are excuse me, part of the nobility and part of the power structure in the town. This town has a mayor, and there is a guard force, but they're the peacekeepers. They're really there not to punish people, but just to make sure that there's not any funny business going on, and no one is getting beat up and mugged and all that kind of stuff. In other words, there's not a huge jail, in the town. Typically, if someone is unruly or someone shows up that causes problems for the town, they tell them, "Get out of here. You're not welcome at our port anymore." And this particular town has a large transient population, not as in homeless, but as in people who show up. They're there for a while and then they leave. Because they come on boats, they have a shore leave for a few days, they load up their ship, they get out. This particular island happens to be a pretty big shipping hub in that way, and that is its main way of doing business. There are not a huge amount of natural resources other than ocean-related items. There are forests on the island, but the town and the island are not large wood exporters or anything like that. So most of the business that comes to and from this place is all about shipping and having a place to settle down for a few days while you're waiting out a storm and things like that. The bay, Trast Bay, is protected, so the landmass sort of curls in almost, and so the bay has cliffs on each side so that it's protected from wind. So lots of ships go there to find a safe place to stay for a few days while they're waiting out a large storm. That also means there's a lighthouse there on the outcropping, large rocky outcropping. Yeah, so that's where you are.
Okay.
I don't know if you were actually born here or if your family was, well, let's see, you're all young enough that you probably were born on the island, although maybe not in Traston Finn itself. But you all know each other. So
Okay.
how did you meet?
Well, so for Axley, the reason he's here, he left his quaint halfling village because he was growing tired of the insular nature of his scholarly studies and the questions. The more questions were raised than answers from those old tombs. And so he just felt the draw of all those unanswered questions. He had to go where people are, where trade is, where ships are coming and going, and where there would be tales of what else is out there. So that's why he's at this town. So he's been
Okay.
studying, if they have a library, he's been going there. He's been hanging out the docks, talking to sailors as they come off the boats to hear what their tales of the sea, what's beyond the island.
That's some young people in distress back there, sounds like.
Give me 1 second.
Yep.
I hear a siren's call.
So,
Well, okay. Did you say there was, so is there a
Sorry about
library
that.
on the island?
there is a library, yes.
Like
It's
something small that makeshift?
Yeah, it's so as I said, there's a lot of refugees here, and these refugees all basically brought their entire set of remaining possessions with them, and lots of people perished once they got to the island. They didn't survive, and their items, instead of just throwing those out, anything that was useful was commandeered and handed out to the other refugees so that people could survive easier. And
Okay.
anything that was scholarly in origin, or pretty much anything that had any sort of documentation,
Mhm.
or anything that was a curiosity or something that people didn't know anything about, got put into the library. Now,
Okay.
the library is not a huge, extensive,
Yeah.
hall of things, and it's not even really well organized. It's more like a giant thrift store where
Yeah.
people, but instead of selling things, they just have things there.
Yeah.
And if someone shows up and says, "Hey, that's my great uncle Bimbleshroom's old cane," then they basically will say, "Hey, if you can show that that really is true, then we'll give you that item."
Yeah.
It's more like a storage locker than
Yeah.
over the years now, because that doesn't happen very often anymore, where people show up and say, "Hey, that's my family's item." Now it
Right.
really is more like a true library where people don't really come and take the things out of it. So yes and no. There is a library. It's not all that.
Yeah.
It's not like a library. It's more like a makeshift repository for goods and curious items.
But the stories that accompany those items and the stories of the refugees bringing them would definitely be something that actually would be interested in hanging around and trying to learn from.
For sure. For sure. And even 50 years later, there are some people that ended up on islands and tried to survive there, and the island ended up being too harsh, and they try to hop on the first ship out of there, and they try to go to the largest city known, and they end up in Traston Finn. Even now there are refugees that float in on makeshift rafts and different things, and they'll say things like, "Oh, we've been stranded for 20 years and here we are, and now we're in a big city." And so there are still a few things that come in every once in a while. Sometimes people, when they're traveling around, they find a shipwreck that has goods in it, and of course they take the valuable things, right? And then with any kind of paperwork, people know that you can take it to the library in Traston Finn and it'll be stored at least.
Okay.
So Axley is at the library. So are you telling me that Imran is also at the library?
I would imagine that would actually be probably somewhere she would go, or at least relatively frequently stop by, at least like kind of looking for information. I was going to say that could be, she might have like found the symbol of Goras at the library and like taken it to the priest and like become an acolyte that way,
Okay.
or something along those lines.
Okay.
just looking for information about her mother, finding out about this goddess, and kind of connecting the dots and seeing if she could invoke the help of this goddess and become a cleric that way.
Okay. So your mother's missing.
Yes.
What happened to your father?
Father's still around.
Okay.
I was thinking probably he was a merchant before the sinking, but probably became either like I was looking at the artisan guild thing, sailmaker or shipwright, something along those lines to like make a living and support the family. So he's probably still around, like making ships, making sails, doing that sort of thing. I think Sam is frozen.
Uh-oh.
Oh, uh-oh. Or he's just good at standing very still.
Very, very still.
Yeah.
He's in the Matrix.
He looks like he's in deep thought. His face, the last image of his face.
Well, I guess that kind of connects the two of us. What about Ash?
Yeah. So is your race, is it from, it's not native to this island, right? In other words, it's not something that we would have seen before? You're
You know
unusual?
what? I tried to get some information from Sam, and I don't know if it was particularly clear or not, but so I'm really not sure, maybe. But Ash would definitely be in the probably in the tavern, drinking, trying to make new
Fair
friends.
enough.
But if you guys were in the library, he might have gone with and started looking up stories to tell people, looking up stories about fighting krakens, and then, for down the road, tell people that, maybe he fought a kraken single-handedly. You never know. So,
Well, the tavern is somewhere I definitely would hang out too, considering the amount of stories that go on there. And if I
Right.
saw you there, which I don't think I'd be able to miss you based on
yeah,
appearing, if it's not an appearance I'm familiar with, it'd definitely be very intriguing, and I would want to
Yes.
go introduce myself and find out about you.
I was
perfect.
going to say, what if it's like a second-hand thing? What if Emran met Axley in the library, they got to talking, went to the tavern for a drink, and then the three of us started talking.
Perfect.
You've got to come meet this crazy white lion that hangs out in the tavern. You can watch the drink. Amazing.
Yeah, he would definitely be at a table, quite possibly not at a table he would be welcome at. It's kind of like he just pulled up a chair and I am now in your conversation, regardless if you invited me or not.
And I think we just did the same thing. So
Right, yeah.
we probably just kicked
Perfect.
people out of their table.
Yeah.
They probably just
Another round. Hey, where are y'all going? Another
Right.
round.
Perfect.
I'm good with that.
All right.
Now we got to get Sam on board.
Yeah. We don't need a dungeon master. We're off and running. Let's just go.
Yeah, right.
I'm rolling dice. Yeah. Any word on Sam or what happened? Is the host out there? Or are we on autopilot?
Maybe
I was really afraid that was going to happen to me. Like my Wi-Fi gets really weird, and it's been raining. It gets weird when it rains. I was like, oh, please no, not today.
Yeah.
Cool. I read the guide. It was really great. The background material he wrote was very interesting. It's going to be a real interesting setting.
It
Yeah,
was
definitely.
crazy. There was so much to it.
Yeah.
A lot of thought went into it. I'm really excited to actually play.
Yeah, it's impressive the amount of detail that went into it.
Yeah, and it's cool too because it's not like the same old trope, right? You're not just trancing
Yeah.
around Greylock, and so yeah, it fits the theme, which is exploration. It's into the unknown.
Right.
What's out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's really cool. It kind of harkens back to like what the Narnia and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader and those kind of stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need to read a little bit more on the player's handbook to find out about how the skills work and Should we outfit our characters with just basic sundries, or how does that work? Do we have money that we spend initially to buy things like, if we want to have certain types of clothes, or
A lot of the backgrounds provide kind of the basic necessities. So, like my sailor background gives me a basic set of traveler's clothes. The armor that I'm wearing with it gets you with the class. But if you look at the class you chose, it should have given you a pack, and
Yeah.
you had a choice between like 2 or 3 packs. And each of those have your basic. Some come with rations, a bedroll, a backpack, some
Oh.
torches. Yeah, so definitely look into what those packs have on, like have in them, because a lot of times you'll just lose track of, well, I don't have a torch, and when in reality you really do. You just have to check the contents of the pack. But otherwise, something specific, we would just have to ask Sam if there's a shop nearby and that we can spend our gold on.
I see it's on page 151, the equipment packs and what's in
Yeah.
them.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Oh.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry about that. Lost power.
We've already left the island.
Yeah, awesome. Got a boat and everything already, huh?
We're off
Sweet.
and running.
That's the best thing that happens when the DM just goes away all of a sudden.
Right.
Okay. Wow. You talking about encumbrance?
Oh, he was just talking about items and just kind of basic necessity items, and if
Mhm.
we have any. So I was explaining that the packs that we have that were given to us in our equipment lists have kind of basic necessities like a bedroll, a backpack, some rations, some torches, and stuff like that.
Yes. Yes, that is true. Also, just to let you know and to let the audience know, if anybody is still watching or listening or whatever, there is a huge storm happening outside of my house right now. So if my power goes out again, I will try to come back on as soon as I can. But you know, if it doesn't, I apologize, and we're going to be back next week either way. But yeah, so
Oh, that's what it was. The power went out, huh?
yeah, the power went out, and my modem, my router is not all that fast at getting me back online when it goes out. So yeah, it's Gorus. Gorus is mad.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this could be a problem. But yeah, no, it's okay. It looks like it's going to be fine, but I can hear the rain outside now, so it's hitting us pretty good. But anyway, yes, though that is correct. Those packs have pretty much all of your essentials that you need in there. If there is something that you want extra, feel free to take a look at equipment lists and whatnot, and we can talk offline about that. You don't have to necessarily look it up right now and try to figure out what you have at this very moment. So where we left off, Imran, we were talking about Imran being in the library.
Oh, we already hashed all this out.
Yeah. So tell me about it. Tell me
Okay.
what's going on.
Okay, so Emran and I are familiar with each other from the library repository, whatever it's called.
Okay.
And from my time hanging out down at the docks and going to the local pub, listening to the talk from the sailors and just the general rumors that happen from storytelling in the pub, I saw this very strange white lion-esque creature that I'm not at all familiar with. So I just had to go introduce myself. And after meeting him, I went back to Emran later and said, "You've got to meet this crazy creature. You got to watch him put away drinks, and he's quite a spectacle. Come on, I'll show you him."
Okay. The name of the main sort of tavern that all the locals go to is the Swimming Sword Tavern.
Swimming sword?
The Swimming Sword. Swimming Sword is owned by 2 humans, a male named Glacius, and he runs it with his daughter Taruma. And so you being from this area, you probably know them pretty well. Okay, so that's how you all met. Okay. Tell me, when was the last time, and describe for me what actually happened, but when was the last time and what happened when the three of you worked together to solve a problem?
Hmm. Is there any kind of problem or any
I was
details
gonna
on what
say,
kind
if we have to pick a problem, Ash is probably in a bar fight.
of Yeah, that's probably a little more likely.
He tries to be more
Brian got
friendly,
us.
but I'm sure he may have pissed off maybe some wrong people. Sure, we could go with that.
Okay.
Probably rival Buccaneers and such.
Okay.
Kind of a rowdy type. He's
Yeah.
he's good. He doesn't want to make anybody angry, but get a few drinks in him, and like we said earlier, when his courage is challenged, he refuses to go down. So if they feel like they're going to talk smack, well, he doesn't just sit by and let it happen. So he'll bust out some a can of whoop ass if he has to.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be evident that the fight was brewing and hostilities were rising, and so we tried to disarm the situation until one drunk, belligerent patron happened to call him a coward, and then it was on. there was no disarming the
Yeah.
situation.
Nope.
Okay. So what did you do? Did you fight alongside him, or did you break up the fight and pull him away so he didn't get in trouble?
Are fights common in this bar?
That's up to you to decide.
It is a port town. I don't see
Yeah.
why it
Port
wouldn't be.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I would say that we'd fight alongside him, or I would anyway.
Perfect. All right. If you're willing to fight with me, then I will definitely fight for you.
Okay. Axley.
Yeah.
Who do you trust more? Ash or Imran?
Probably Emmerin, based on knowing her a little longer with common interests, and after this fight, I'm not exactly sure where this other relationship is going. If this is going to be good for my health.
Okay.
I see how it is.
Ash. Who do you trust more?
It's hard to say. I wouldn't trust one more than the other. Honestly, if they call him their friends, he puts 110% trust into both.
Okay.
Which may, especially maybe in his past and maybe perhaps in his future, may be his downfall. So he trusts. Maybe he's a little too trusting.
Okay. Imran, you know the question that's coming. Which one do you trust more?
I think in terms of trust, she definitely trusts Axley more. However, I think she really strongly admires Ash. I think she admires his just like the ability to go at it no matter what, like just always being willing to take action. But I think in terms of trust, she would have to trust a little bit more of a steady head, more like Axley.
Okay. So I'm going to start with Imran this time. What's one secret that you have that no one else knows?
Ooh.
And so I will tell everyone now, the reason I don't do secrets that only the one player and the DM knows is because I think it's more interesting for every player to know the secrets of a particular character, because then you can either inadvertently or on purpose put that character in a position where that secret might come out. And you can then see to what lengths they'll go to make sure that secret doesn't come out. And those things don't emerge if no one else knows the secret except me and one player. So I'm going to ask all three of you for a secret. So, so Imran's on the hot seat right now. But
oh dear.
Two of you.
A secret.
If you need a minute, I can go first.
Go for it.
Sam, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Ash's secret, he has a crippling fear of people disowning him or not liking him. So when Emerin says that she admires Ash for his tenacity and for him, being kind of relentless and in his ways, he has a crippling fear deep down that will turn people off, and that they act like they may like him and turn around and really just not enjoy anything about him at all. So he has spent more than many restless nights helming the ship at night, looking up at the stars, wondering, is anybody really being truthful to me, or am I just alone in this world?
Okay. Axley or Emerin? This is rough, huh? This is session 0.
I was not prepared.
I put all the onus on the players.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's see.
Can we add secrets later on?
Sure. So let's go past that then, and I will ask you the next question. Tell me the name of someone who is a rival or enemy that you have, and why they are your rival or enemy. I cheated. I have a list of questions.
Yeah.
So while everyone's thinking about that, Ash.
Yep.
Where are your parents?
Don't know. My
Okay.
my father, I definitely never knew my father. As far as I know, my mother never talked about him. But then my mother and I got separated, and as far as I know, I woke up on the Maiden's Vanguard and was found by the captain. So he ended up being a father figure to me.
Okay. Were you ever betrayed by anyone?
Because I was thinking about that in terms of my rival. On the ship I was from, there was another sailor by the name of Vigar, and he was a human, and he always had it out for Ash because of maybe feeling that Ash got special treatment from the captain of the ship. He was nothing, or I was nothing more than a stowaway. So why did I get responsibility? Why was I, not swabbing the deck, and I was helming the ship and navigating? So there was that kind of rivalry. And perhaps there might have been an instance where Ash may have gotten himself into a little trouble and on the ship. And maybe Vigar turned him in after swearing that he wouldn't. He was a witness to this event.
Okay.
And said, "Oh no, your secret's totally safe with me." It's probably something maybe trivial or embarrassing, but enough to get you in trouble. And he slipped under the radar and
Okay.
got Ash in trouble.
Emerin, what was the last thing that you found out about, either in the library or maybe in the temple or somewhere where you were studying and you were looking for things? What was the last thing that you found that made you think it's time to leave the island?
You are killing me with these hard
I
questions.
know. Sorry.
I have answers to the previous two though.
Okay.
So I'm working my
do it,
way
yeah.
up.
Okay.
But so my rival has always been my older brother,
Okay.
who just always very competitive within the guild, like working on anything that we were building or selling or doing anything. He was always better, always kind of like the favorite. And he got to leave and do his own thing. I haven't gotten to what he's doing yet, but he got to leave the guild and like pursue um his own whatever he wanted to do. And
Okay.
so that's my like rival, which kind of leads into the secret. I'm trying to find my mother so I don't feel guilty about leaving my father. So when I find my mother,
Okay.
I want to be able to leave the guild as well. So I don't really plan on coming home.
So do you think that so the secret there is that you don't plan to come home?
Yeah.
That's actually the secret. Okay. Okay. Axley, what do you got for me?
Okay. My rival is Dahmer Brittlespoon. He's the son of a rival house back home, and they're a merchant family. So they have they're very well to do, and they have a thriving business of importing goods and sundries. And so my secret is that in order to spoil the name of his family, I snuck into their warehouse and put spoilage in a lot of their food stuffs. So then they got the reputation of cheating and having very poor quality goods, and it hurt their reputation tremendously.
Oh,
Classic halfling move.
that's a good one. Okay.
But Dahmer found out about that, and so he now knows that I did that to his family.
Oh, did he tell anybody, or is he just trying to seek revenge on his own?
I don't know. I left very quickly. That was another motivator for going to
That's
pursue
really
my.
funny because my next question to you was going to be, why are you running away?
Yeah. Trying
Excellent.
to put
Now
some
I know why.
distance there.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's actually move to the next sort of thing that's happening. It is the day before the Dawn Watch. And so I will remind you that the Dawn Watch is basically the first day of the year. It is the celebratory day that commemorates the realization that people actually survived the sinking, and that now it's time to rebuild civilization and move forward instead of looking back. And so it's the day before that. It's basically like that's like New Year's Day for people, except there's no real like New Year's Eve celebration. That thing doesn't happen. But what happens is usually it's a very festive event to have Dawn Watch, and people have lots of markets, and if there's any sort of bardic troops or dramatic troops in the area, they come and they perform for people, and it's this very sort of festival type atmosphere. But unfortunately, there's a huge storm. So right now it's the eve of Dawn Watch, and there's a huge storm, and you're all in the tavern because part of what you were going to do was you were going to earn some cash by helping people set up their market stalls and their different celebratory celebration banners and things like that. But because this huge storm moved in, no one's setting anything up right now because they're afraid it'll just be blown down. So everyone's kind of hanging out in the taverns, basically, because lots of farmers brought their goods in so that they could set up market stalls. But now the weather's too bad for them to go back out. It'd be kind of pointless to go back out to their farms several miles away from town, possibly in some cases. And it's not helpful for, anyone to be setting anything up. So there is a lot of activity in the taverns. There's a lot of activity in the inns. No one's really on the streets. There's a horrific downpour. There's the huge sort of windy set of events coming through. It's sort of this gusty type of thing where the wind dies down and then all of a sudden it picks up really quickly for a few minutes and then it stops. And that creates really, really bad conditions in the ocean. And so everybody that's in a ship has come and they're either in the bay, sort of anchored out because there's no more spots on the docks. So they've anchored out and they've rowed in, or they are actually anchored at the long docks, which go out far enough to be in the deep enough water for those ships to actually anchor and be connected to a dock. But basically what happens is you're all in the tavern having a good time, relatively speaking. I mean, it would have been much better if you could have been working and earning some money. But everyone's sort of drinking and there is a festive atmosphere because everyone's hoping that the storm will blow over. And as you're sitting there at the bar drinking, a little girl runs in and she says that she saw something happening down on the beach near the lighthouse. And most people ignore her.
Well, Ash, is going to go right up to that little girl, get down on one knee. Little girl, how may I help you? What distresses you, little girl, little human girl?
I saw something happening, big things with claws down on the ocean, and then they crawled out and they're eating something, and I'm worried about my daddy.
Oh God.
Ash is going to look down at his own hands and look at his claws, and then slowly put them down. And say, well, little human girl.
She says, no, like these.
Oh, okay. Perfect. All right.
That's
well,
what
looks like
doing this.
it's a call to adventure, and I better answer said call. And so I'm going to look to my companions. Come, companions. Adventure awaits. People are in danger. We must go.
Are you lawful good? What happened?
I'm chaotic good.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay, what?
Girl, where is your father? Where did you last see your father?
He runs the lighthouse.
Is he inside the lighthouse?
I thought I was going to go visit him, but I saw scary things on the beach and I turned around.
And you ran away before seeing your father.
Yeah.
Good idea.
They're eating something and it looked gross.
It did not look like your father.
Her eyes get really big.
Oh, that was bad.
Of course, that's not.
Okay,
I don't know. She starts crying, just tears.
Here's a copper piece. Get yourself some milk at the bar. We'll be back shortly, I'm sure, with your father in tow.
Taruma, the barmaid, the owner of the bar, she comes over. She says, what is this? You're upsetting the little girls again, Ash. What have I told you about this?
I don't mean to frighten little girls. I'm sorry. And then, like, as he's saying this, like, his face is pretty close to her, so she's just seeing like his big fangs and getting a little bit of spittle on her head.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point, I start ushering you guys towards the door. Like, okay, that's enough.
Yes.
So I tell, what's her name again?
Taruma.
Taruma. Sorry. I tell Taruma to look after the girl. Just keep an eye on her. We'll be back in a little bit, but we're gonna go check on her father. And we usher out the door.
Wait, little human girl, what is your name?
Little DM, look up the name. Her name
She's still too terrified to talk.
Her name is Veda, Veda.
Veda. Like Darth Vader.
Darth Vader from Brooklyn.
Yeah, right. Alrighty, little Veda, I promise. Well, maybe not promise, but we will at least figure out what happened to your father.
She's doing okay, thank you.
Grab your coats. It's blustery outside.
It is, in
Fasten my
fact,
cloak about me.
if you open the door sort of does that thing where the wind hits it and it swings it and it goes bam, 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 bam. And then, of course, many of the patrons in the bar look over, shut the door, you know. They don't want you to disturb their festivities, okay?
Sorry.
So the three of you leave, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, please.
So you're now out on the street, and the streets are mostly mud at this point. They are generally well cared for, but the storm that has been hitting this town all day has really, really done a number on most of the structures in place to keep things set up and clear. It's kind of an unseasonable storm at this point. Even though it's relatively cold season, you really don't have a lot of rain and wind. So it really was an unexpected kind of thing. So there are rivulets of water that are running down the street, but they're not really rivulets. They're more like little creeks. So basically, all of these little creeks are running down the roads, and they're all converging, of course, into the big river that leads out into the bay.
Yeah.
And so you can easily follow those. You all have lived here long enough to know that the part of the side of the bay that has the lighthouse on it is in the north, and you can actually walk across the bridge because right now you're sort of so there's a river that comes through, and you're across the river. So you have to cross the river and then go down to that side of the bay. It's a stone bridge, so there's no issue there. There's not going to be any problem there. At least you don't think there's going to be a problem there. And if you cross that part of the bridge, there actually is no problem. And you can go from there down to the little fishing village. There are lots of different little huts and homesteads and whatnot down really relatively close to the beach. The waves are probably 10-foot swells at this point. So when you look out, even the protected bay inlet, which has the sort of rocky cusps around the edges, there's really huge swells in there. So it's pretty scary right now. There's lots of cloud cover, lots of lightning. There's rain coming down almost sideways. So you're sort of huddled. You've got your cloaks wrapped around you. And so now I need to ask you, who has dark vision?
Nope.
Nope, I don't think halflings do. I don't think they do.
Okay, so only Ash has dark vision. So you have to make sure that you can stay close enough to Ash that you can see him, because the clouds keep covering the moon enough that it gets really dark all of a sudden, and then it'll get bright, and then it gets dark, and then it gets bright. So it's a pretty scary kind of situation.
I think at this point I'm clutching his cloak, trying not to slip and fall in the mud.
Okay.
So I'm right there.
Okay.
Watch the tail. Watch the tail.
Lucky for us, he's a giant white furry cat. So
very true. He is a giant white furry cat. So you get closer to the area where you think the little girl was talking about, and you actually see about 300 or 400 feet off of the beach a boat that looks like it's half sunk in the bay, which was not there earlier today. So it's not a landmark or anything like that. It's new. And as you look down on the beach, Axley and Imran, you see shadowy things moving. You see definite movement. Pretty much that's all you can see. Ash, you see what look to be really, really large crabs skittering on the beach, to and from piles of something.
Okay.
You're a little far to tell at this point.
Okay. Now the ship in the distance, are we talking longship? Are we talking like a pirate galleon? What are we?
Small sailing vessel.
Okay.
Sitting really low, getting hammered by swells, not moving.
Okay. And how far are we from where I'm at to the crabs?
Probably 300 feet. You guys are still kind of on the upper the area is kind of hilly and it drops down into a beachy area. The crabs are definitely on the beachy area. You're still kind of up above.
How many do I see?
At least two.
At least two. Okay.
At least two.
I'm going to relay the crab information to the other two. So be wary, companions. There are two large crabs down there, and they don't look friendly.
Well, that's
Can
terrible
we-
news. I hope it doesn't bode poorly for that poor lass's father.
I was gonna
On the
say-
bright side, I do have to let you know that my family has an amazing recipe for boiled crab.
Oh, stop. And Ash rubs his tummy. Not now, not now. I was only drinking earlier.
His stomach growls.
Yeah. You can't tell if it's him purring or his tummy growling.
It's a mixture of both.
Exactly.
Imran, what were you going to suggest?
Can we like skirt the crabs and get to the lighthouse?
You probably could attempt to do that. I will tell you that the path to the lighthouse is pretty treacherous. It is so the lighthouse. The way that the bay comes out is the town is sort of here, okay, and then one sort of in a half moon shape comes out like this, and
Okay.
then and then to the bottom as well. And those are sort of these rocky cliff type. It's almost
Yeah.
like pincers of a crab, almost actually. And so the lighthouse is basically right here, but this entire thing that's my finger right here is all big cliff and it's basically stone. So to walk up that in the rain and wind is very treacherously dangerous. So you
My-
could skirt them. That would be a difficult way to go.
Yeah, with my 9 dexterity.
With your -1 modifier.
My -1 modifier, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Not my option. You guys, it's probably not good to split up, but
Yeah. But you do see that when you look at the lighthouse, you see that the brazier that is used as the beacon light there is lit.
Ooh.
And the mirror that, because it's not a magical light, it's actually a big brazier. The lighthouse keeper keeps the fire going and has a mirror that he uses, and it is actually moving the way it's supposed to.
okay.
Does it look like we could get to the door of the lighthouse if we stuck to more of the side away from where the crabs are?
If you went around, you would have to go through that treacherous path. But yeah, I mean, the door is, if you can get through that pathway along that cliff and up the cliff and then all the way to the lighthouse door, sure, it looks like it's clear. There's nothing blocking it that's not normal.
And the girl mentioned she thought they were doing some activity down by the shore, eating something. Do we want to investigate that, or do we want to try to avoid these creatures?
My fear, dear Axley, is that if we take the more dangerous path, we may be nimble enough, but our poor cleric companion may may have an early career if she tumbles down the rocky cliffside. So maybe we should, who knows? Maybe these crabs are friendly. You know, you never know. You never know.
Looks like we're crab catching, man.
Deadliest catch. Let's do this.
I'm game.
All right.
Okay.
So Ash will amidst is it raining, right? It's pouring rain.
It's still pouring rain, yes.
Yeah. So as quietly as I can, I'll be like, follow my lead, and I'll lead us down to the beach area.
Okay.
As I'm like slipping and sliding in the mud because you're now in front and I'm very unstable.
Is there some kind of a bardic ability I can use to like stop the party as far as make us courageous and steadfast? Like, can I sing the ingredients to my family's sweet and spicy crab recipe in a very upbeat way?
You might make the crabs really mad.
Wait until
Yeah,
I
let's
have my pen
stay
and
pretty
paper out.
quiet.
At this point, I don't think that you have something in your bard's back pocket, so
Okay.
to speak, that will help you in this situation. I think you don't get a sort of inspiration type of thing until 3rd level.
Okay.
But you can all roll me a stealth check. So
Oh
that would
god.
be a dexterity check with your stealth skill.
13?
And it's based off Dex, right? So is it
So stealth is a skill, so it's going to be a d20 roll plus your dexterity modifier, and if you are proficient in stealth, you'll add your proficiency bonus.
okay? I roll a 5, so that's an 8 with my bonus.
Okay. And what did Ash get?
Ash rolled a natural 20,
Oh,
and
excellent.
that makes that a 26.
Impressive.
Good thing you have all these losers hanging on to you that are
I was
loud.
gonna say, I think the
Yeah.
rest of us ticked him off, but you're safe.
So the other thing, Imran, is because you're wearing scale mail, you actually roll your stealth with disadvantage. So you have to roll another d20, and then you tell me the lower result.
Oh, it's not lower. I got a 17 that time.
Okay.
So I stick with my 13.
Yeah. And then Axley got a lowly 8. Is that what you said? 8?
Yes.
You guys are sneaking down the beach. Now, are you going to try to what's your goal here? Are you going to try to sneak up to the crabs and attack them without them realizing it, or are you going to just try to sneak up and see what's happening, or what's
I want to look at like the stuff on the ground. I want to see what that is.
Okay.
I don't know about everybody else, but I
Yeah,
want to
just
know what
observe them
they're.
and see their behavior. What are they doing? They've obviously been here for a little bit and they're still in this location. So what is it they're doing? Are they just milling about? Do they have something?
Yeah,
that they're...
you see them sort of using their main claws on the items that are on the ground and then like pushing them into their mouth. Yeah.
So Ash's goal right now is he wants to stealth as close as possible, and then basically he'll lead the charge, and as soon as he attacks from the shadows of the rain, that'll be the all right, everybody go kind of thing.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna draw my bow then and knock an arrow because I don't have anything that is up close and personal is gonna be that useful.
Okay. So you're gonna kind of stop following, then you're gonna actually stay behind a little bit. What's the range on your bow? Do you remember? Is it 8.20 or something like that?
Let's see.
So when you have a ranged weapon, that the first number before the range, the first value in the range, it usually has 2 ranges, one number and then a slash and then another number. And when you have that, the first number is the sort of normal range of that weapon, and the second number is that long range of that weapon.
Okay. It's 80/320.
Okay, so what you're going to want to try to do is get around 80 feet away, and that's going to be your, maybe a little closer, maybe 60 or something, so that if you have to run in, you could actually reach them in a couple of turns. And that's where so luckily, because you rolled the worst stealth, so they're going to go forward and you're going to sort of hang back. But I will tell you that when the 3 of you get to about 80 or 70 feet away, Axley stops and draws his bow and knocks an arrow. And you're now close enough that when the lightning hits and it puts light on the beach, you see that there are actually 4 really large crabs, and that the piles of things that they are messing around with, one of them is a pile of broken barrels that had like fish and, basically ocean food meat in it. And the other pile is a pile of bodies that is being actively
That's what I was afraid of.
cut and eaten.
I was really hoping you were going to say that the barrels were full of tasty spices that they were rolling around.
What is it? A bay? It's a bay mix.
Yeah, it's a bay mix. Yes.
Old Bay.
Yeah, Old Bay.
Perfect.
Big red and yellow container of Old Bay.
Yeah.
So you stop at 70 feet so that you can fire at them. What
Yes.
is Ash and Imran doing?
Ash is getting as close and basically Emerin can decide what because as soon as Ash goes, he's going to attack from the shadows.
Okay.
I was gonna say I'm gonna go opposite of you, so that when you draw attention, I can attack from behind.
Okay. So you can imagine this in this way. There is a pile. The pile of barrels is kind of in the north part of the
Okay.
beach, and the pile of bodies is about 20 feet south of that. Two of the crabs are messing around with the things in the barrel, and two of them are messing around with the bodies. The ones with the bodies are actually the ones that you saw because they're actually closer to where you were coming from. Because you guys rolled good enough stealth checks, the crabs do not notice you. And because Axley stopped because his stealth roll was pretty low. But he stopped, so he stopped in time for them to not notice him. And it's still pretty dark outside. But because of that, I will give you a surprise round. So both Ash and Imran will be able to get a lot closer and then have a surprise action. And Axley will also get a surprise action. And I presume you'll probably be waiting until after they act to do anything.
Yes.
But what that means is I need an initiative roll from everybody, and then we'll do the surprise round.
Okay. I got a 19.
All right.
15.
Ash got a 19 as well.
Which one of you has a better dexterity?
My dex is 17.
My dexterity is 19.
Okay.
Now, I didn't add my initiative bonus. Do I do that? For
Yes,
dex?
add your initiative bonus. Sorry.
Oh, okay, that would make it a 22.
Wow, look at that.
I rolled a 19.
Yeah. Okay, so let me make a roll here. Oh, I rolled a 5. Okay, so normally what I do is I roll once for all the creatures. I don't roll individual initiative for the creatures. When it's a mixed group, I generally take the initiative bonus of whichever group is bigger. So if it's like 50, not that I'd throw 50 zombies at you, but let's say it's 50 zombies and 2 necromancers, I'm going to use the zombie initiative, not the necromancer initiative. On the other hand, if it's 20 human soldiers, I'm going to use theirs instead of the 1 mage or whatever, right? So I'm going to use the majority one. If it's even, I pick. Okay. Now, so that means that creatures, I rolled really low this time, so they're going to go last. Now, what I do is kind of a modified side initiative. I wrote this in the setting guide, but just in case you don't remember, I let everybody roll initiative, and the way this initiative works is basically this is going to determine who goes in the surprise round in what order. But then after that first round, then because all of you guys are together before the creatures, you guys basically get to pick what order you go in, so you can feel free to coordinate your actions however you'd like. So
Okay.
I don't use the strict number after a surprise round. What it will determine is if the creatures were in between, it would determine which of you go before the creatures and which of you go after. But then whoever is going first, if there's 2 of you or 3 of you that are on either side of those creatures, you'll all go together basically at the same time. So what this means is actually, and so theoretically, right, the way D&D works is everything is sort of around, and then you go, and then you go, and then you go, and then you go. But really, it's all technically happening at the same time. So right now, I'm going to let Axley say what his action is, and then we'll resolve that. And then Ash will go, and we'll resolve that. And then Imran will go, and we'll resolve that. But really, that's happening all at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna draw the bow and take aim at the next nearest crab that's not the one that they're advancing on.
Okay.
And then I'm just gonna hold my fire until they complete their actions.
Well, so they'll complete their sneaking around action. So if you want to attack, you can attack without messing up their cover, right? Without.
Okay. Yeah. Then I just don't want them to be in the line of fire, and I didn't want to,
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about it. So there's 4 crabs, so it's possible for you to aim at one that's not where Imran or Ash are at.
Okay. I'll do it.
The only choice you have to make is whether you're going to aim at ones that are messing with the barrels or ones that are messing with the bodies.
I'll take out one of the ones that's messing with the bodies.
Okay. Okay, so go ahead and give me an attack roll
Okay.
for a range.
Just rolled a natural 20.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you're going to roll, so that's obviously going to hit. So you're going to roll your damage twice. So whatever your damage die is. So for a short bow, it's probably a D6.
The D6. Yeah.
And then you're going to add your bonus once.
It's okay. I rolled a 4 and a 4, so my bonus for Dex
Yeah.
is a +3, so 11.
So 11. Okay, so just going to roll something here. I did not have my dice out and ready. Isn't that a shame? Okay.
Natural 20 on the first attack roll of the game.
Yeah,
Wow.
nice. Exactly.
Yes.
I hope the trend continues.
Yeah.
So you guys, right as you're about to attack, I'm assuming you're going to attack, right when you're about to do the action that you were going to do, you see an arrow come out of the darkness. As lightning flashes, you see an arrow, and it hits one of the crabs right in between its two eye stalks. And the crab just sort of collapses down, just almost like a machine that got shut off. And when it hits the sand, it sort of shimmies a little bit and almost tries to cover itself up a little bit with the sand. Okay. And then it is Ash's turn.
Now, was this the crab that Ash was going to attack?
You can attack whichever of the other three that you want, or you could attack that one if you wanted to. There's
Okay.
that are south near the bodies and 2 that were up by the barrels, and he attacked 1 by the bodies. So now there's really only 1 active one by the bodies.
Okay, yeah, because that one is, for all intents and purposes, dead,
As far as you can tell, yeah.
as far as I can tell. Okay. Then, yes, I will go for the other one and try to get a sneak attack on it if possible.
Sure.
All right.
It does not know you're there, so yes.
Okay. All right. And that is a 16 to hit with my first attack,
That
because
hits.
I've got my dual wield cutlasses.
Mhm.
And that will be 11 points of damage on the first swing.
Okay. Now, when you swing into this creature,
Mm-hmm.
you notice for the first time that its shell is not really what you thought it was going to be. You thought it was going to be the hard shell of a regular crab,
Mm-hmm.
but it's soft and mealy, and you realize too at that moment as you slice in and then you're going to make your second swing that this creature smells really gnarly. It smells like pungent, like rotting flesh. And as you cut into it, you see that it has spots on it where there are nasty parts of it that have rotted away, and you can see the underlying tissue, and it's really disgusting and mealy.
Okay. All right. Well, looking at it, oh, disgusting, you foul beast. And then I'm going to go in for the other slash.
Okay.
And that was a 17 to hit.
Okay, that's going to hit.
Now, do I get
How much damage did the first one do?
11?
Okay.
Now, I don't get sneak attack with the second slash, do I?
Correct. No, only with
Yeah,
the first one.
I didn't think so. All right. And that is 10 more points of damage.
Okay. So that one, you have basically cut its face off. You just, and it just falls to the ground. The face just kind of, front of it just falls off.
Ha-ha!
And Imran, you don't actually see those things happening because all of this is happening at the same time. So you
Okay.
snuck up to one of these other crabs. What are you doing?
Yeah, I guess I'll go for one of the ones that's on the barrels.
Okay.
Probably whichever one's closer to Ash, so I'm not too terribly far away.
Okay.
And
Yeah, they're only about 20 feet away, the barrel pile and the body pile. So
okay,
you're
perfect.
close enough that if one of you needed to go help the other, you can get there in one turn.
Great. Okay. And I swing my mace at it and hit it as hard as I can.
Okay, so make
Good
me an
strategy.
attack roll. So that's going to be a d20 plus your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus.
I have a 10.
Okay. You hit the top of this creature, you hit the shell of it, and your mace sinks in to the creature, like through the shell that you thought it was going to be hard, and it just sort of sinks in. And when you do the after action where you're pulling it out, it kind of, there's sort of this gooey mass of mealy, gross tissue attached to the head of the mace as you sort of move it out, and it's now has this big dent in it, and there's this sort of disgusting yellowish greenish substance running out of the creature. But it's sort of, it almost looks around and like, what happened? But as it sort of tries to move, there's a crash of lightning, and you see kind of what Ash saw. You see these nasty spots on it that are rotting on this crab. And roll me some damage.
5.
Okay, so you did not happen to kill that creature, but you did get its attention.
Great.
Now, that was a surprise round, which means the creatures don't get to go, and now you all get to go again. So the current situation is, actually, you shot at one by the bodies, right? Yeah, okay, so there are two, now there's two by the barrels, and Imran is by those two, and the other two are down. But Ash, as you sort of look around to get your bearings and see what has happened and what the situation is, the two crabs that had fallen down and kind of shimmied into the sand start moving around again and sort of stand back up.
Oh no, the faceless crab rises again.
Yes.
Great.
And so technically initiative order is actually Ash, Imran, but because you all go before the creatures, I will let you choose which order you would like to go in.
I'm gonna, since I have the distance, I'm gonna hold my fire so I can observe the results of the in close combat to see where I may need to put my shot.
Okay.
And so if the two crabs are back up out of the ground, if I leave, and Ash has noticed this?
Yes.
Okay. And if I leave, I will trigger an attack of opportunity.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, the one that's closest to me, I'll turn around and with a snarl, stay down, you ugly fiend, and I'll go back for two more attacks. The first one is a 22 to hit.
That hits.
For 10 points of damage.
Okay. That one falls down again.
All right. And I'm gonna go ahead and make sure. Like, did it look like last time?
Yes, it looked like last time.
Okay, so the other one, I'm just gonna plunge in and like angrily stab at it.
Okay, just roll me damage. You don't have to roll an attack for that.
Okay, perfect. 7 points of damage.
Okay.
So now Ash is just snarling, angrily stabbing his cutlasses into this giant crab corpse on the beach.
As you're doing this, the same thing that happened to her mace is also happening to your cutlasses. They're starting to, as you withdraw, they're starting to have this nasty, slimy attachment to them.
No.
Imran, what are you doing?
My gut reaction is to try like an elemental attack, but I don't think we talked a whole lot about like what my spells are.
Okay. We did not talk about
Definitely
your
a thunder
spells,
wave.
but we can talk
This would
about
be a
them.
good opportunity.
We can talk about them now. Yeah. So, did you pick spells or?
I am looking at the spell list.
Okay.
And I know I have 3 cantrips and 2 first level spells.
Yes.
I guess it's mostly looking up what these do.
Mhm.
It's the
Sure.
thing.
I mean, so it's yeah. So are you looking for one
Just
that's
something,
gonna do a lot of damage?
something that's like either fire or like lightning. I'm looking at guiding bolt is what I'm looking at. It's first level spell, cleric
Mhm.
spell. But I don't really know if that's exactly what I'm looking for. Trying to find it.
Okay. Yeah. So guiding bolt says it has 120-foot range. A flash of light streaks toward a creature of your choice within range. You make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, it takes 4d6 radiant damage, and the next attack roll made against it before the end of your next turn has advantage. And because it will have a mystical dim light glittering all over it until then. So that's going to do radiant damage.
Okay.
Which is divine energy, not necessarily elemental type energy. So if you're going for thematic, that does not hit your storm type theme,
Right.
but it is a really good spell. You can, I guess I should probably get familiar with the cleric spell list. I'm sure Thunder Wave is on your list. Thunder Wave is a good spell that deals with a lot of creatures. If you want to, so here's the other thing. If you want to try Guiding Bolt, if you decide later on that you don't want to have had that spell, then that's fine. You don't have to prepare that spell anymore.
Okay.
If you want to run Guiding Bolt. Now, here's the thing about this. Because this is a ranged spell and it's a ranged spell attack, but you are in melee, you end up making that attack with disadvantage.
Okay.
The other thing you could do is move away first, but if
Yeah.
you move away, you might take an opportunity attack. But then you would not make your, whether that attack hit or not, you would not make your attack with disadvantage. You would just make a regular attack.
Okay. Yeah, let's do Thunder Wave. I like that better.
Okay. Yeah, Thunder Wave is a good spell. So
Watch the friendly fire.
yeah, so that's what I was going to say is the problem with Thunder Wave.
Oh, good.
There's always choices, right? The problem with Thunder Wave is that you're by the barrels, so it's possible for you to target the 2 crabs that are next to you by the barrels.
Okay.
And also the crab that is by the bodies.
Okay.
But then you also have a chance of hitting Ash. If you, I mean, in terms of leeway, I'll give you a ton of leeway here. I feel like you could pivot and cast your spell in any direction that you want. So I think it's possible for you at this point, because of the way that this is set up, to hit the 2 crabs around you with no problem. If you try to hit the crab that's still around Ash, you're going to have to move a little bit, which might trigger an opportunity attack.
Okay. I'll probably play it safe and just hit the 2 that are near me and see if that works.
Okay.
And we'll see how that goes first.
Okay. So this is not a spell that causes you to roll an attack roll. So
Okay.
basically, I have to make a saving throw for the crabs, and so that means I need to know what your spell save DC is, and your spell save DC is going to be 8 plus your spell casting modifier plus your proficiency bonus. Your spellcasting modifier is going to be wisdom, so whatever your wisdom modifier is.
And plus proficiency?
Plus your proficiency, that's correct.
Is 12.
Okay, so I'm going to roll. So I'm going to roll for both crabs one at a time. The first one rolled a 14. The second one rolled a 4. So one of them made their save and one failed. Now here's what that means. For Thunderwave does 4d6, right? Am I right? No, 2d8 thunder damage. Okay. And so I need you to roll me 2d8. And the one that failed will take all that damage and be pushed. And the one that passed or succeeded on his save will take half damage and does not move.
Okay. So I rolled a 6 and a 7.
Okay. So 15 for one of them. Oh, man. Okay. And then the other one's going to take 7. Okay, so so here's what I need you to do. I need you to describe for me what you do when you cast this spell.
Okay. So I guess I turn to face both of them, so they're both kind of within my range of sight. And it's vocal and somatic, right? So I have to make some kind of emotion and say something?
Yes.
Am I saying something specific?
You don't have to make that up necessarily.
Okay.
Just like, are you calling down like the power of Gorus?
Yes.
Your enemies?
Yes.
And are you like an ostentatious spellcaster? Do you make a big deal that you're trying to have your goddess provide you with the tools you need, or are you sort of quietly like,
okay, I see where you're going with this. Okay. Yeah. So as I turn to face both of them, I close my eyes and I'm like mouthing the prayer. I'm like invoking the goddess, and as I feel that power, I start to get louder and louder, and then I cast the spell as forcefully as I can.
Okay. So you guys see, the two of you, Axley and Ash, you see something happening over there. And then all of a sudden, these crashes of lightning occur, and this enormous gust of wind occurs, accompanied by a loud boom. And you see the two crabs that were closest to her and the barrels and all of the fish that were in the barrels. Everything just explodes out from her and flies 20 feet in all directions in pieces. And
that
Ash,
feels so good. That's
Ash
great.
is now standing
That's
there
amazing.
with fish guts and rotten crab guts all over him on his pristine white fur.
I'm glad she's on our side, as I'm like,
oh my
and
God.
everything is gone. There's no more crabs. The other crab also is now just down.
Hurry, check the bodies for the father.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna go over by the bodies.
Yeah, so the bodies, there are 4 bodies. And actually, I take it back. There are 6 bodies. And they are definitely dressed as seamen, right? They definitely are shipmen.
Yeah.
They're crew members from some ship. And they have on them, though, a little symbol embroidered on their tunics, right, like in the shoulder, in the right shoulder. And that symbol is a symbol that looks, actually, I need to show it to you, so give me 2 seconds so I can grab it.
Sorry about your fur.
The rain will wash it. The rain will.
Oh, there you go.
Here's what the symbol looks like. And for the podcasters, I apologize. I will describe it. The symbol looks like almost like an eyeball that is like the white. It almost looks like an eyeball with a red pupil, and with like the white, what would be the white of like a human eye is actually silver. And there are copper spikes coming out from the top and the bottom. And it looks like the eyelid has been half closed. So there's a red line in the middle, and everything is silver, and there's sort of half of a pupil visible, and then there are these copper colored spikes coming out of the top and bottom. I will send this to you, and I'll post an image of that.
You ruined it for me, because when I initially saw that, I instantly harkened back. My mouth started to water because I saw my aunt's special avocado nachos.
So that's what you see on their tunics. But definitely they're wearing ship crew member type clothing. You know, I mean, it's not like they have a uniform on, but what they have on is obviously something that a normal sort of crew would be wearing on a ship. And you all recognize that because you're from a port town. So
now, being a member of, a former member of, a buccaneer crew, does that symbol look at all familiar to me? Have I seen that on the high seas before?
you have not.
Well, they're mysterious to me, and they don't look like her father.
Would history help at all?
They're what? What'd you say?
He was looking for a history check.
Oh, you can make a history check if you want to.
Sure.
And then we'll dig through their pockets.
There we go. I got an 11, which that's without the bonus.
What is it with the bonus? The bonus would be your intelligence.
Plus 2, yeah, so 13.
Nope, nothing you have seen before.
Okay.
Do we actually know what the father looks like to be able to identify the bodies in the first place?
Well, he's a human. They all look the same.
Well, the good news is the father is probably not wearing a ship's crew tunic. So
there you go.
But when in doubt, we'll drag all the bodies back, and we'll have her pick out the right one.
How about we just check the lighthouse to see if her father's there, so the father can go get her from the tavern?
You're right. We had a mission, but I went through the pockets.
Okay. Go for it. I spilled fish guts all of you, so you can do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. So in their pockets, here's what you find. One of them has in their pocket an earring made of a hardened starfish.
Oh, that's mine.
One of them has a tiny petrified seahorse.
That's Emmeren's.
Thanks.
One of them has a large scale that is similar to a fish, but not quite.
Does it look valuable?
Uh,
Does it look unique?
Yes, it looks unique.
It's definitely mine.
And then
for you, 3 for me.
One of them has a pouch with 14 gold pieces in it. And that is it. That's all they have. They don't even have weapons on them, which is odd.
A sailor never goes far without his weapons.
So can we assume that these bodies are from the sinking boat that was out there?
If you put 2 and 2 together, it might be wise.
Can you see the
Good
boat?
thinking.
Does the boat flying any colors? Does it have a pennant on it?
In the in the distance, I saw in the dark. I only saw that it was a half-sunken ship. There was no colors flying, no banners. But we could assume that was good on Emmeren's part to put that puzzle together.
So yeah, in the various crashes of lightning, the very brief moments of seeing that ship, you do not see any pennants on it, and you don't see any technology on the sails. In terms of what Nina asked earlier, Imran might recognize the lighthouse keeper. You know, you guys have been in town long enough that you know most of the locals, and the lighthouse keeper is a local. It's not a position that changes, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't rotate. It's not like a volunteer thing. That's his actual job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably would recognize that. You might not, you know, you could probably pick him out of a lineup, and none of these bodies look like him.
Okay.
I say we split the gold. 80 me, 20 you guys. All right. Perfect.
How much total?
I don't see anybody complaining. Hey,
I wasn't gonna say anything, but can't complain with that logic.
it was 14 gold.
Okay.
What he's saying is 80% for him and 20% for the view. Right?
Okay.
Well, you could imagine me being maybe the party treasurer.
He's doing that tabaxi, I'm going to convince you thing, right? He's
exactly
tabaxi.
It's my witty charm that's rubbing off on you.
Right.
However, if you take into account the cost of the earring and the large scale, you probably have more than both of us already.
But if you also account for the salon care I'm going to need to get the crab meat out of my matted fur, I mean, it's going to be, prices these days have inflated to a ridiculous amount. So
friends, I can't haggle over trinkets. I'm perplexed by this new mystery that confronts us. That what are these sailors doing, having stolen my aunt's avocado nacho recipe? It seems they've gone into business for themselves with it.
For as much as you talk about food, please tell me that you can back it up with the cooking skills. I'm starving.
So please give me an investigate check.
What's an investigate? Is that a skill?
Yes.
Investigate is a skill. Sorry, I will be more careful about.
I got a 6.
6 total?
Total, yes.
Okay. So investigate is what I will try to do is I will try to start saying it the way that Wizards of the Coast says things, and I will say, please give me an intelligence investigation check from now on.
Okay.
I can't guarantee that I'll actually remember to do that.
You got a 4.
Yeah, a 6 and a 4. Oh, jeez. What did Ash get?
Ash got a 22.
There we go.
Ash has hot dice.
Out.
As you all are trying to divvy up the goods that you found
in the pouring rain.
It's important.
Ash happens to notice that there is what looks like a little piece of parchment under part of the remains of one of the barrels that got blown apart by Imran's spell. And it is a tiny stub of a parchment end, and all it says is, "Hail Liralac."
How's that spelled?
Hail, like the weather phenomenon, hail, and Liralac, Leralak.
Does this mean anything to you two?
Do I recognize the name?
You can roll me a intelligence history check. Okay. And Imran can roll me an intelligence religion check.
I got a natural 20 on that one.
Excellent.
Good job.
I have a 14.
Okay. Both of you recognize the name from some readings that you did in the library in Traston Finn. But the name is sort of tangential to anything you were looking at, so you never really did a lot of research into anything about it.
Okay.
But you do know that Laralac is the name of a powerful magic user in the old time before the sinking. And he was somewhat notorious for something, but because it wasn't related to what you were looking at, or at least you thought it wasn't related to what you were looking at, you didn't dig further into his history.
Okay.
I do recall coming across this name in the histories of the library, so it bears some further study.
I will give the parchment to Axley. Here you are, my little friend. I do not understand, but you seem to. You are
I'll
wise.
bite the paper and say, well, it's not gold, but
True.
it'll do.
It's not the recipe you were looking for.
Onward to the father. Let's get him. And Ash is going to run off toward the lighthouse.
Okay. Are you going to wait for Imran and? I mean, you're literally running off. You're not going to wait for Imran and
I'm
Axel?
going to run like 5 steps and like look behind.
And I'm gonna shake my head and be very exasperated because I'm still like slipping and sliding around in the mud and trying to climb the treacherous rocks is not gonna go well if we're going that fast.
Lead the way, my fish gut covered furry friend.
So there's 2 ways we could go about this. The first way is you can run it with skill checks. So you can all attempt to make it from where you are right now safely to the lighthouse to talk to the lighthouse keeper. Or you can say that you're going to take as much time as you need to carefully make the trip. And in that case, it's probably going to take you 2.5 hours to make it to the lighthouse. Yeah, it's that treacherous. But that would be 2.5 hours of you all working your way really slowly amongst the rain, amongst the wind, right? I mean, we're talking almost gale force winds here. So
Right.
it's extremely dangerous. So if you want to go faster, there's going to be some skill checks that have to be made. If you want to take your time, you're basically taking a 20, but that's taking a lot of time.
What about companions? If one of us or 2 of us go off on ahead and someone takes the short route, or some of us take the short route, the dangerous route, and then one of us takes the slow route, or 2 of us, however we want to split it.
I see where it's going. I'll stay behind.
It's
Go
not that one
on
direction.
ahead.
You're just
It seems like you with your nimble skills is probably adept at braving the rocks and getting there quickly. If the gentleman needs assistance, probably best for you to go render that assistance as fast as possible. I'll stay behind with Emerin and we'll make our way slowly to the lighthouse.
If you need anything, if you get into any danger, you know our safety call, our call for distress.
Caw-caw!
Bingo. Good. Glad we talked about it. And I'm going to run off into the rain.
Okay. So what I need from you is 2 checks. I need a wisdom survival check from you, and I will need a dexterity acrobatics check from you.
A wisdom, which one?
Survival.
Okay. That is an 11.
Okay.
And the acrobatics is a 17.
Okay. Make me a Constitution saving throw, please.
21.
Okay. You make it to the lighthouse in relatively short order, like 20 minutes, let's say. You slipped and fell several times. You sullied your
But did they
pristine
see
fur.
Mhm.
You did not fall, but you are now exhausted, so you have 1 level of exhaustion.
All right.
But otherwise, you are fine. The door to the lighthouse is locked and barred.
I am going to politely knock.
Lightly, politely knock, or are you going to pound on the door?
I will pound as politely as I can.
Okay. The a gentleman comes to the door, out of breath. Yes. What is it? I've got to get back up to the light. There's a storm. Can't you see?
Yes.
As the
I'm
door
standing in
swings
it.
open, as the door swings open, he sort of looks up at you. Oh, come in, I guess.
Thank you.
I was just expecting some silly person. I don't know
No.
who you are.
The name, and I will do a flamboyant bow to him. My name is Ashaz Whitemane, and I hope you have a cute little daughter who frequents the tavern every once in a while looking for help.
How dare you?
Right.
My daughter frequents the tower, the tavern. She doesn't frequent the tavern. No. But every once in a while she has to go there looking for me. So yes, is she okay?
Perfect. Yes, she's okay. She sent us to come and rescue you, a sir in distress.
Why am I needing rescue? I have to get back up to the light.
All right, get there. And I guess my companions are coming too, so hope you have snacks.
Okay, so let's stop there because I want to get in 15 minutes of conversation. So you found the lighthouse keeper. He is alive. You found bodies of sailors with
Alive sailors.
weird symbol. Yes. And you defeated 4 zombie-like crabs quite spectacularly by blowing them apart.
Which actually is going to be inspired to write a poem about Ash fighting off a case of crab infection.
Excellent. I look forward to reading it.
Right.
Your book is going to be half poem, half recipe. I could tell already.
There you go.
I mean, we got some fried fish in there. It's fine.
Yeah, totally.
That's right.
Exactly.
As long as we embellish a little bit of the heroism, I'm behind it.
Ash hogged it all.
So on a normal episode, there won't be as much sort of talking. That sounds weird. There'll be a lot of talking because it's role playing, but there won't be as much talking through characters and whatnot. In the next episode, what we're going to probably do is for the first 20 minutes, I'm going to check in with everybody, make sure that you have your character completed the way you want, make sure you're doing things like, looking at what's happening. By the way, you're all going to level up to level 2. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to do when you level up to level 2 is you're going to roll your hit points. And so you roll whatever your size of hit dice that you have. And then you add your constitution modifier to that. If you roll a 1, my house rule is you roll a 1 for your HP, you roll again. Okay. You roll a 2 though, that's what you got.
Is there a rule where you can take, like there's an average number you can take rather than roll, or?
Generally I have you roll. If you want to take the average, that's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
And it's then your average plus your constitution modifier. You always add your constitution modifier.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing that you do is you look for your class and you look at what special ability you get at 2nd level.
Okay.
And then at that point, so when we start the next session, you'll all be at 2nd level. Also, you'll be safely in the lighthouse with the lighthouse keeper. And so the next session, the first 20 minutes or so, we're going to check in, make sure everybody's characters are doing well, make sure everything is okay. Nobody wants to change anything, at least not right at the moment. Anything that we didn't resolve previously this session will be resolved in the first 20 minutes of the next session. And then we'll move forward with the game. And then we'll play for about 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then I'll stop us and we'll have about 45 minutes, maybe an hour of conversation regarding different parts of the game, different rules discussions, different, like this session I stopped a lot and I walked through things because we're just making characters and whatnot. I won't necessarily do that in the future sessions unless someone has a specific question. So I imagine that in the first 2 or 3 sessions, a lot of times there's going to be can you tell me how this works so I can know how to perform this action that I want to attempt? And that's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. But as we go, then those sorts of conversations will end up being talked about at the end of the episode instead of during the episode. The first 2 or 3 episodes will probably have a lot of discussion during, but probably not as much as we did tonight because tonight was all character creation. What I'd like you all to do is make sure that you email me your character. It doesn't have to be in any, it doesn't have to be like a PDF or whatever. It could be just text. just email me your character and any notes that you took, so that I have a record of that. And so how do you feel?
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
A lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Fun.
It was a good first session.
Excellent. Do you feel like your characters are starting to be who you thought they might be?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is there's an aspect of character development which is relying on the other characters too, right? Because you envision your character in a vacuum, and then it may not exactly play right with the other characters, and you
Mhm.
tend to like flow a little bit into what the other characters' personalities are like too. So that's kind of cool to
Right.
develop a little bit in the first session.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of also why I ask things like, who do you trust and how did you meet and what was the last thing you worked together on and things like that, because I think that a lot of times that happens, specifically in D&D, especially if once everybody gets more experience and you kind of think you know what's going on, you come in, you might have an idea, but then that might change as you're creating your character and as you're looking at different things and you're hearing what other people are doing. Definitely that happens a lot, actually. So it is an interesting aspect. It's part of the reason why I like how they did the ideals and bonds and flaws. I like that idea. I think that it pulls in an ability in the game for people to really do that type of character building. I'm not sure that I'm totally in love with it, but I do like it. I think there's something about it that works. I'm not sure if it works well enough for what I want it to work for, but that's kind of a different conversation.
Yeah.
How about you,
Yeah,
Nina? How do you feel?
And putting the pressure on for sorry, go
Mhm.
ahead.
You're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Um,
You feel
The
good?
pressure of the questions, right, that we weren't
Mhm.
expecting. That was,
for
it makes
sure.
it
Yeah.
this impromptu character
Right.
development, which is it's good because it means that you're not doing that in a vacuum too, right? You're kind of observing what the other characters are answering and doing things that aren't going to be too terribly detrimental to their choices.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and going off of that, the questions were definitely not something that I personally thought of. So it was like, oh, how would my character actually do this? And it kind of developed in a way that I wasn't really expecting. And like as someone who's very new to this, I still like kind of learning how the whole role playing thing works and like feeding off the other characters, and like we're all still learning how each other like the talking speed, like kind of the discussion turns, how we kind of build off of each other, was definitely a learning experience. It's really new to me, so it's going to take me a minute, but I think even with the first session, it went really well. Like our characters are developing. They're, I mean, I really like where mine's going.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
yeah, it's definitely different. It's not what I was expecting, but it's good.
Okay. Good.
Good.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you were expecting?
I think it's more what you were talking about. It was like my character was in a vacuum. So I was like, oh, my character's going to do this and this and this, but
Mhm.
you're playing with other people. So you can't really dictate what they're doing. And so I have to be a little patient and be like, okay, what are they doing? What do I have to do? What's the situation turning into? So do I have to mediate? Am I instigating? And like, you kind of have to pick and choose where you come in and where you let the other players come in. So
Right.
it's definitely like a team effort as to where everything's going,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So part of the reason why I do that secret thing is that way sometimes, if you're playing a character who sort of stands back a lot and the other two characters are sort of rushing forward and always getting into trouble and you're having to kind of come along and be the voice of reason and pull them back.
Yeah.
Having that secret that I can, as the DM, I can set up situations where, maybe it's getting close to your secret and
Right.
this is going to be a problem and it's going to cause you to have to be the one to sort of move forward, that they're going to be, wait, what happened? Something is going on because, usually Imran doesn't run off like that. And now
Yeah.
they're going to get really excited at first. And then it's going to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What happened? So excellent. Very good. So here's the last question that I have for you for the evening is, So we talked about, just for the audience listening, the three of us, or the four of us, talked about different sort of thematic items in the game a little while back in one of our pregame chats. And one of the things that arose from that is that this campaign is going to have a focus on you all trying to figure out what caused the sinking, and what created that situation that turned this world upside down, basically, and made it all sink under the ocean. And so my question is, boy, how do I say this? Well, let me put it this way. What level do you think your characters will be at the end of this campaign? Like, if that's your goal and that's the thing that you need to find out, what level do you think that's going to make your characters?
Like, if everything went well and we were to answer that question.
Yeah, assuming you stay alive and everything happens and you attain your goal by figuring out what the heck is going on, and maybe even, like, I don't know, reversing it or fixing it or changing it, or at least just knowing what it is.
Mhm.
What level do you think you'd have to be in order to actually accomplish that?
Definitely by 15th level.
Really? Oh, you think so? That was higher than I was thinking. Because I was thinking, like, maybe the answer to that question isn't, it's not like the end of the campaign, right? I guess if that were the main climax of the story, then yeah, you'd be a high level. But I was thinking, like, once you learn why, there's still a lot more story that can go on from there as far as what you do with that knowledge, right? Or what you have to do with that knowledge. So
That's kind of
my initial thought was maybe somewhere around like 7th to 10th, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that
so
for sure.
that's about, because what I was thinking, knowing what happened and doing something about what happened are two different things. So I was thinking, if we are to figure out what happened, I would say like 10 to 12.
Yeah.
But if we're doing
Okay.
something about it, I would say like 15, 16 is what
Okay.
I was thinking.
Okay. My next question is, I lied last time. I said it was the last question I have. Here's my question that comes out. So, do you want to explore the entire world and learn lots of different things about lots of different areas, or do you want to stay mostly in your general area, your home area, and investigate and know a lot about that home area?
Did anybody else see the dinosaur on the map?
No.
Because that's where I want to go. I want to go there. So I would
Good
love to
Jurassic
travel the entire thing because I feel like there is so much to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't think the answer to what we're looking for is going to be in one spot.
Yeah.
It's going to be a conglomeration of all the information we gather from all these different places. So I want to go everywhere, explore everything, get as much as I can, and then kind of figure out what we're going to do with that info.
Yeah,
Okay.
and from my character's motivation, he definitely wants to go out into the great unknown, into that big question mark. I mean, he doesn't see the answers being here on this island. It's got to be out there somewhere.
Okay. Because there's, so the island, or the island you're on is in one of 6 main regions. So that area that you have the map of is just is 1/6 of
Yeah.
the common plateau, basically.
I mean, just reading your guide, right? Like, if I were to extrapolate that as like lore that's in the books in the library that I learned about in my scholarly studies, just the intriguing things about walls of water and giant mountains and everything in every direction. I want to go see those things. I don't want to just read about them in a book.
So I will tell you about, so in the setting guide, so I'll tell the audience, just for the audience's sake. In the setting guide, it was described that the common plateau is the mortal plane, and the common plateau is bordered by 4 major barriers, and those 4 major barriers are, one of them is referred to as the acid veil, which is this sort of big, almost waterfall like wall of seemingly corrosive material. You don't really know if it actually is acid. That's just the name that it got given to it. That is actually to the east of you. To the south of you, the edge of the common plateau is where the world fall is. And the world fall is basically the idea that, you know, the world is water and it's flat. And so that means if there's water and it's falling off of a flat surface, it's a giant waterfall. And anybody who's ever gotten their ship too close to that area, goes over the waterfall, has never come back. That's to the south. To the north is on the other side of the plateau where the edge is these humongous giant cliffs that go up into the sky as far as the eye can see. No one has ever been able to climb all the way up, at least, and survived without falling off and dying. And to the west is an area called the doldrums, where you get to a point in the ocean where there are these very large, very slow-moving whirlpools that trap the ships in these whirlpools that have these extremely large kelp forests under them. And the ships get trapped in such slow-moving water they can never get out, and everybody on them perishes if they're not rescued. And no one has been able to get past that region. Although when you look beyond it, it looks like it goes for a very long time. And in fact, people who have been near the acid veil, they say that you can actually look through the acid veil and see the sea continuing on beyond that. But that's rumor. You don't actually know if that's true.
Okay.
So those are the four barriers. So the cliffs, the acid veil, the world fall, and the doldrums. And none of those areas, to your knowledge, have been surpassed at all. They also did not exist in the previous, before the sinking, those things were not there. So even though the world was still conceived as a sort of flat or oval, it was still debated whether it was kind of a sphere or a globe versus whether it's a flat plane. And but those edges did not exist. They were different. So
Okay.
so that's that. So I think we're going to end there because it is 10 o'clock, and I'm not sure where Rudy is. He might be around here somewhere. Okay. Yep. Hey, Rudy. So let's say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed it, or thanks for listening if you're listening to the podcast. Yes. Who has a Twitter account and who wants to plug it?
Nbase, m-base3 if you want to follow.
Come follow me at +1 Longsword. I got a blog by the same name on Blogspot. You can check that out too.
Cool. No Twitter for me.
No Twitter. He's a Luddite.
I am.
Not quite. You're on a video stream, man. I am at DM Samuel on Twitter, and you can see my work at rpgmusings.com. And we hope you all enjoyed this. And our next session is scheduled for next week. So join us.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks.
Bye.